Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, certified brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
And welcome to episode 167 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Nathan, we're in my town tonight, sir.
We're back in the hammer.
Back in the hammer. Best place in the world. Best city in the country. And this is a brewery that was always a place that I came. We would go to wine country and go into Niagara, whether it was Niagara on the Lake or Beamsville. And when we lived in Montreal, of course. And on the way back, I would always, if there was time, we would always swing by Merit. Oh, I just ruined it. It was, I mean, people are watching this and they know what's going on. They saw the thumbnail. They saw the name. God damn it. Yeah, I would always swing by, and it was cool. It was the one space that I really enjoyed coming to. It was right downtown. You're able to really catch a vibe of the city. There's so many things about it that I love, whether it's the ambiance, the food, of course, the beers. The people are always lovely. It's the most diverse tap room, I would say, in Canada. And we're going to talk about that. Since I already spoiled it, let's just fucking get it going. Guys, please welcome Aaron Spinney, but no one calls him that, of MERIT Brewing, in the building.
Welcome,
What's going on?
Does anyone call you Aaron?
My mom.
Of course, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Sales reps as well. We know, like, if someone's walking in the building, ask for Aaron, we just say,
like, who?
He's in a meeting or something. You know? Not too many people anymore. My mom's like, I guess my family will call me Spinney as well, but it gets confusing, you know. So
because that's their name too.
That's it, yeah.
I remember when we were first talking, because obviously I don't know, we've been talking for a while. I guess we only met last year. When did we do Link Up? When did Merit do Link Up? 22 or 23?
I think
it was last
5?
year. Oh, season
April,
5? That was last year. Okay, so it was last April. So we only met in person last April, but you helped me and Tiff a lot with a bunch of recommendations for Hamilton. You got us our vet. Like, you co-signed the barber that I go to, like coffee shops, like restaurants. Like, everything you ever told me, I noted down. So we've been talking for a while, and when Nate was like, oh, do I call him Aaron or Spinney? I was like, oh, good question. And I was
whatever
like,
you want. I respond to both.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, he's the chillest dude ever, but no one's ever. I think I learned your name from your Instagram account. I didn't know what it was because it's that much. Every time I met anyone who knew you, they would call you your last name. So it's funny.
I find it confuse people too, because like I'll introduce myself as Aaron because it's, I don't know, maybe it's more professional, but then everyone's looking for Spinney and like, oh, where did Spinney come? I'm like, yeah, it's me. But as well, if I say Spinney, if I introduce myself as Spinney, then people are like, oh, like what kind of nickname is that? Or it has an explanation, and I'm just like, I just don't want to deal with that. So like, Aaron's usually how I introduce myself, and then it still fucks shit up, anyways.
I love it.
There's no not confusing way to introduce yourself then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone's hoping for Spinney, and then just Aaron shows up, and it's just like hanging out with a fucking librarian or something.
It's like an alter ego.
Yeah,
I fucking love it, brother. Very, very happy to have you tonight. It is somewhat. I feel like Nate and I have had a run of podcasts that is ridiculous with the time length that it's either been since the last one or that we hadn't done it. This one falls into the latter category. It's obscene, so apologies, but we're making up for it tonight. We have a banger lineup of brews, and we are kicking off with this bad boy right here, the 107 Dortmunder Export Lager, which I am stoked for. Love this style. Yeah. Tell us about this one, man.
Yeah, it's now our second year making this beer as a seasonal. I kind of hope to get it more into the rotation of things, but as a brew pub, sometimes that can be difficult. Over COVID, we kind of, started doing a lot of more classic styles and focusing on tradition. It's something that as we opened 7 years ago, we weren't really focused on that, more of like that, what's going to sell hype kind of styles. Gotcha. And it didn't leave much time for this. And, eventually as a brewery, you kind of long for someone else to tell you what to do, So yeah, we fell into this traditional category, and like as a brew pub, we started to categorize our beers. And English styles and lagers kind of really have risen to the top, and thankfully for us, lagers are in style more than ever. So we're excited to
Definitely.
make these kind of things, and we're kind of just going down the list of beers we don't see, beers we haven't heard of before, beers that might have be very, very small regionally, and try and recreate them for ourselves and use them as a learning point and tool for ourselves. I think like when we opened Merit, the idea was to always learn something, and that can be difficult, especially over time.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, like lagers really humble a brewer and make you a better worker as well, I find.
Yeah. That's a great point because there's nothing harder than making a lager, arguably, too.
Yeah, you can make a Imperial Stout all day, and those are difficult as well to balance, and you can still find imperfections, but lagers are kind of like the black dot on a white canvas. You're going to see it from across the room, and there's no hiding from it if you make a mistake.
Hell yeah. Well said. Boys, first of all, cheers. This looks amazing. Smells great. Get that in you.
Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Great bready nose. Oh, yeah. Now, that's delicious. Is it 6.4 or 5%?
5%.
Okay, because Untapped says 6.4, but the can says 5.
Yeah,
So
that was last
first
year.
batch?
We fermented a little. Well, this is just as dry, but we made sure not to make it too high in alcohol. Lagers, when they get above a certain alcohol, a lot of licensees don't want them, but as well, we were just getting people drunk, so we thought we'd dumb it down and make it more sessionable because that's what it's all about.
I appreciate that, and because there's definitely in the export lager category, it can trend a little higher.
Yes.
I think most most Dorts tend to come in more around like the 6.5 range, and even when they're a bit deceiving flavor wise, like you can't necessarily taste that it that strong. Like that makes a difference, and that will get you hammered faster for sure.
Yeah. Whether you believe it or not, it will. It's science.
it's
And
science.
you like this, you want to have a few of. Hopefully, that's the idea. Like nice balanced maltiness, little bread character, and then like just a soft bitterness. Nothing crazy like a pilsner, but more than a Helles. And the idea is, you want to taste it, but you want to be grabbing for that next can too.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So the Dortmunder, I don't know if you want to speak. I mean, I know you sort of talked to the tasting notes there. The style in particular, that's something I really like, but I don't really know a ton about it. So what separates, say, a Dortmunder from like a Pilsner or whatever?
There's not as much information online compared to, say, those styles, but it's kind of the idea of like pale ale IPA, double IPA. Lagers have that in their own way, and a Helles really just means light. Dortmunder is a region, but in that area, based on the water content and the malts, it was more of a bread forward, almost like a Marzen, but not as dark. And of course, like interpretation can be anything. Like you can get some nice darker Dortmunders, but also nice like golden straw color as well. But just a balanced hops, kind of in the middle, like a extra medium bitter, like kind of not too hoppy, not just malt either. You want to have that balance, nice grassy tone, noble hops from like the German Tettnang or Saws, whatever you're throwing in there, and just kind of making it happen.
I love that. That's a great explanation. Speaking of the hops, that was the question. I'm always curious to what goes in any crispies. I feel like everyone talks about hops in haze, but I always like to hear because I want to try and learn a bit more about like picking up the tasting notes and stuff. So this one, you said German noble. So is that what's in this one specifically? Do you know off the top of your head?
Hold on, let me pull up my quick reference note here.
Oh, I love that. Look at that. Spinney's prepared, folks.
So yeah, it's Spalter and Saaz. So
Spalter and Saaz,
both very traditional noble hops. Noble hops are just like, just old traditional hops that would be from a German region. Like Saaz is a region, but the hops coming from there is Sauser, Tettnang, or they just add ERs to what the product is coming out of that area. So
Gotcha.
Spalter hops. So yeah, we just like anything cooking at home, you do some research, look it up, follow a couple recipes, compare what you like, compare what everyone has online, and then you have to make it fit into your system as well. Your water profile, whether you want to go right from the region or try and make it as something your own, and then as well you have to make it work on your system. I think like cooking at home versus cooking in a restaurant, it's a little easier to make the same soup, but like say brewing from different breweries or even like home brewing to full scale sizing, you're going to get a lot of different efficiencies, the way things cook, the way things combine. Like, you have to make it fit into your own system as well. So this is our take on it. It's our Dortmunder style, if you will. But yeah, we're stoked on it. We love it. It's moving really well.
Oh yeah,
Something that we're hoping to just keep pushing. So
I love it, man. I really was enjoying Evernice. It's been one of my favorite Krispies from Hamilton. I love that. Every time I go by, I grab it. It's
Right on.
amazing on draft and out of the can. So I was super excited because I really like that. And I don't know. I think other time I went, I was always jumping for the haze that you're doing because you make some killer haze. But I'm really appreciating these Krispies, man. This is fantastic. I really like it.
thank you. Yeah, we actually have Evernights in the Bright Tank right now.
Hell
It's
yeah.
lined up. It's on deck, so we've got another lager coming up before it, and then Evernight should be running all summer again, which is something that you
Fantastic.
need to cut your grass with. So
Oh yeah.
pretty. I'm stoked on it. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a fucking banger. Nate, did you have any thoughts on this beer? Do you want to get out there?
Nothing that hasn't been said already. The only thing that came to mind is that Spalter and Saz sounds like a 1980s buddy cop TV show.
Totally, that's
I
hilarious.
like that. Who's who? Which one's Spinney? Which
I
one?
feel like I'm going to be
I
the
feel like
person
you'd
that
be
gets arrested or something. I might just. I'm
Oh,
the
Nate
villain
Knight is
in
Spalter
this
and
TV show.
Like maybe you're like the captain. You're like the angry captain.
Yeah,
Like in-
I'm the guy who like accidentally trips the villain and then saves the day or something.
Yeah,
but
there you
don't-
go. I
I
like
don't-
that.
I don't know. I don't fucking. I wasn't.
Just
I
like,
was
whatever.
just minding my own business.
I fucking love it. This is crazy, man. I really enjoy this. Very happy to hear that there's more Krispies on the way, which is a beautiful thing. So, whilst we enjoy this beer, let's talk about your beer history, man. Because, like I was sort of alluding to off air, I think when we hung out, Tiff and I came and saw you. I guess it would have been April last year, around the time you did Link Up, and you either told us the story. I think you might have, and then I heard it from other people that you worked with, and I forgot that you told me the story, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy." So I'm curious to hear the whole thing because I think you just told us bits and pieces. You weren't like telling us the story. You were just like we're just yapping, and you were giving
we were-
anecdotes.
Talking a lot.
Yeah, talking for a long time actually. But yeah, man, do you want to? How did you personally get into beer, and then how did that lead to Merit?
Yeah. Man. Yeah. So before anything, I was going to like business marketing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and was just slowly progressing after high school. Like I don't know, just hanging out and needed to do something. My parents were always entrepreneurs themselves, so I thought like maybe marketing or sales would be like a good idea for helping them out or getting involved in some way. And I don't know, I went through it, but it wasn't for me. I think even during like summer breaks and stuff, I was always looking at sales jobs for breweries, but like I didn't really know anything about craft beer at that time. Of course, like
Right.
early 2000s, it really wasn't that big yet, So yeah, just kind of going through life, and then found out I was back like a little back since I was like 10 or 11. For some reason, I collected beer labels, and I would write to be like big like Molson and Labatt's, and Moosehead was the only one that was like, we need to charge you for shipping. So I was like, well, I don't. I'm 10. I don't have any money. Yeah, I still have them like actually hanging on my wall to the left of me here. That I got
That's
like
awesome.
a 1996 Labatt's and Molson's like frozen in time framed
dope.
labels and stuff. And I don't know. I just always thought it was cool. Seeing your family sipping on brown bottles growing up. Got a really young photo of me in like a bunny suit sitting on my grandpa's knee drinking from his bottle, and it always just for some reason clicked with me. I didn't know why. And then on top of that, I just still love cooking. Like it's kind of what drives beer for me as well, and it's one thing that you'll always see me like reading or watching something that's cooking. I love it. Like, and if on weekends, my partner, she's always like, cook whatever you want, but like just don't cook too much stuff because it's I just love practicing and working on things. But fast forward, I think like 2009, found out the Niagara Brewing program was starting up, and watched that until admission or applications were accepting, and I just applied blindly. It didn't. There was no like essay or anything at the time. There was, I think, kind of like they didn't really know how to figure it out. So it was, we all joked like it was first come first serve kind of thing. And yeah, I got accepted into the first brewing program at Niagara back in 2010, and just
dang,
dove in head first without checking the depth, and I was hooked right away. I wanted to learn as much as I could, and eventually getting into working in the industry, I hated being stumped. I didn't like whether it was like someone I was working with or someone I was giving a tour to. If they had a question I couldn't answer, I would be like, just give me your email. I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. Like if you're cool with that, like I always wanted to just teach and learn, and if you're going to learn something, you might as well share it too. So I think that's also part of it, and got into it that way. So went to the brewing program, got in, met some really good people that are still running some great breweries, and some, I guess, lifelong friends at this point. And back then the brewing program was summers off, so we had like 2 full years or 4 semesters split. Now it's like 18 months straight. So we had like an unofficial internship, if you will. Like they didn't say like it's going to affect anything, but they suggested we got jobs. And I went out to Halifax and worked at Garrison for the summer. And still to this day, I talk to Danielle, the brewmaster there, and he's a good friend of mine. And kind of still hear him yelling at me when you do something wrong, but even when you're by yourself in the brewery. And
goddamn,
yeah, I did that. Finished the program in 2012. And I was thinking about going back to Halifax, but Peter from Flying Monkeys gave me a call. Recommendation from another friend, Sam. And I worked there for 10 months or so, kind of doing everything. We were sort of short-staffed at the time, and then Seb McIntosh, who runs the place now, was going back. He was in the second-year program, so he was kind of in back and forth from school there, and he lived in Barrie, so see him on, like, March break and things like that. And
right.
yeah, it was good. It was an interesting job. It was more production than I would have liked, I think. Like, I like factory work. I like that kind of thing. I grew up in a metal shop, so, like 9-to-5s were a regular thing, and it was creative as well, but I think it was just a lot, and was looking for another job, kind of applied all over the place. And then I was using Sam Corbeil at Sawdust as kind of a mentor and like someone to bounce ideas off. And, I was getting all these applications, or people were wanting to hire me for my applications, and was bouncing, the salaries and stuff off him. And one day he was like, hold on, just give me a sec. Give me till 1:00. And I was like, all right, that's fine. And so I was just working along, and maybe within like 10 minutes or so, he called me back and was like, just dropped a number, and, come be my head brewer at Sawdust. We're going to open up in Gravenhurst. And at that time, the idea was still to have like a small brew pub on the waterfront in Gravenhurst. And I was going to he just wanted me to run that, and ended up working for him for 3 years. So I was the first employee at Sawdust City. Dope. And the head brewer there. For 3 years, and 14 months of it was in Toronto. So we contract brewed at Black Oak in Etobicoke. Mm-hmm. And I worked there full time. So they allowed me to work there full time, and I helped them out. They helped us out. We had 4 fermenters there, and essentially just at the time was just renting the brew house from them. So we, bought our own grain. We did everything. And I would brew whenever I could in between their schedule, package with them. And that was back when you had the 650 mil bombers. Everyone had to be in the LCBO with 650 mil bombers. And
oh yeah,
I started a month before Lone Pine went into the LCBO, so it was a part of the onboarding of all of that as well.
Hell yeah.
And then we moved up north June I forget, like 28th or something, 2014, and started brewing full time up in the old gravy hole there. And they're still there to this day. It's great, and that brewery's cool. That building's sweet too. It's an old Canadian Tire, and that was like the place where Sam got his first bike, and now he's fucking brewing there, which is still just a cool story. But yeah, he helped me get the job at Flying Monkeys, but then he jokes that like he kind of saved me from it as well, because it was a good place to work, but Sawdust was a lot more fun, and it was just Sam and I. We kind of got in trouble and drank a little too much, but we built that reputation of knowing our shit no matter how many beers we had, and we could talk any kind of shop that you wanted, and at the same time crack jokes and drink till the bar closed. So, I didn't look back on it and like, oh shit, like maybe I shouldn't have drank so much, but I'm here. Here I am. I didn't die. I'm still alive, so that's good. Yeah, and then at Sawdust, I was there for 3 years, and my partner now, Tej, he approached me. Like, we were friends for a long time. I actually knew him when I was going to Mohawk for the marketing program. Right. He was at McMaster, and that was like 2005, 2006 or so. Knew him through some friends. They all lived on the same floor, and we were just like some buddies from high school, and that's how we met. And then years later, he kind of started to fall into food and try some craft beers, and then he got into home brewing slowly, as everyone does with like the homebrew kits, and fell into it that way. And eventually, he was in the music industry for a few years and was doing pretty well, but he was like, I kind of want to do this. And I think it was April in 2014, we had a lunch, and he was like, what if we open a brew pub and go like full LCBO? Like, oh, those are two different things. We don't want to do that. That sounds painful. And yeah, from that day on, I guess it was almost 3 years to the day that we worked, at nights, on weekends, crunching numbers, putting a business plan together, having all those like fun contingency plans, and finding money as well to build this idea. And we both agreed that Hamilton was something that we both loved when we went there, and we always wanted to find a way to move back, and it all kind of fell into place. And we found a spot through Tej's friends that are in the music industry, but they also buy some really great venues in town and buildings just to preserve them. They love the Hamilton history and culture, and they run the beer fest here in town. They do all the fun stuff. So they're also our landlords, and they kind of were like, we have a good spot, and we think that a brew pub would be perfect. So it all kind of fell into place that way, which was really sweet. But we did a lot of work to make that happen as well, So we opened in 2017. Thought we had, everything figured out, and just like anything in beer, it really humbles you every day, and you learn a lot. Here we are, almost 7 years later. So, yeah.
That's sick, man.
Pretty wild.
That's awesome. That's a cool story. Yes, I was referring to Sam because I swear you told me about Sam, and I always I don't know. I guess I don't really think about who knows each other. And I know that he was did you meet him when he was teaching at Niagara? Is that what he was doing at the time?
Yeah. So he was our packaging, finishing, and filtration teacher, but then also our practical brewer as well. So he was on the floor with us. And that year was the first year that he brewed Golden Beach. So 2 years ago was their 10th anniversary of that. And I remember we just, even like back then, he he's human, but he didn't know how to dry hop just as much as anyone. And we were putting hops in the bright tank in like a muslin bag, and we're like, oh, we just both look back on him like, man, that was dumb. But I was also later on found out we realized that he filled his first barrel of Princess there as well. It was a blueberry wine barrel from Muskoka, and I remember soaking that. And yeah, later on we reminisced, fuck, we did a lot since day one of Sawdust, but because I was in school, I never really thought about it until years later.
That's
and
cool.
Yeah, now he's a family member for sure. My mom and dad still ask how he's doing, and that kind of thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, good guy. Great guy.
It's a cool. He's I don't know. He's one person that no one ever says a bad word about Sam. He's just fucking the best, salt of the earth type cat. So it made me really happy to know that you guys had a real close relationship, and I feel like it explains a lot. he's a good dude, and I feel like he knows his shit, and he would only want to be around other people who are the same. So it's probably really, I can imagine for you as like a younger dude and going through the school program, and then like it would have been quite formative to be around someone like that and to really soak up that knowledge back then.
Yeah, it was great. And then I think like when we started to work together, he was mostly up in Muskoka putting the brewery together, doing exactly what we did opening Merit. Like it's a lot of work, right? So, and then he was doing long distance sales, so he was planning things and then also selling to the bars in Toronto, and he'd shoot me the invoices, and after brewing and packaging all that, I'd load my truck up and drive across the city and deliver. So we did everything. We did everything from brewing to sales and events, everything you think of. Sam and I did it for at least 2 years, 3 years. Did
that help you, like doing that from the very, very beginning, even technically before the beginning? Like if in a, like from what the examples you just said of like the first barrel of Princess and the Golden Beach, like going through that process, did all of that like really help you when you and Tage sort of opened Merit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm kind of someone that's going to like absorb as you're learning and be able to use other experiences in your life to face a challenge that's in front of you that you might not have like. Okay, I've never done this specifically, but this is how I think I would do it in other ways, or maybe I saw, what I mean? Like, oh, that's kind of dumb.
No,
just being able to like be adaptive, and I think working with Sam, I learned things that I didn't want to do. I learned things that I liked, and a lot of times he left me on my own to figure out as well. I was a little bit more mechanically inclined, so I liked fixing the bottling line, the canning line. If there was something quirky about it, I kind of gave it some time, whereas he'll still joke he'd rather take a baseball bat to it than trying to figure it out. He doesn't have the patience, and I always joke, if he had the hair, he'd pull it out. But I joke about that because I think about this one day, I think it was 2014 or 2015. He would, we were doing everything still when we moved up north, and he was emailing and answering calls and ordering. Like, I get it now what he was, on his phone all the time for, but he was still brewing. And then I would be like more seller side of things and packaging and filling in gaps as well when he needed. But he was just sitting on the railing at Sawdust up on the brew deck there, and he was like, he called me over and he just showed me a picture on Twitter or something that was like one of the first hazy IPAs coming from New England, maybe like Tired Hands or somewhere. And he was like, does this look finished? Like, he was like so mad. He was like, this looks like something we dump. This looks like the shit we put on the drain. And he was so mad. Like, if he had hair, he would have pulled it on. That's kind of where I started saying that. I'm like, man, he would just go from 0 to 100 for no reason on nothing. But like, he never meant to that anybody. He would just get frustrated at beer that was new. You're like, oh, your age is showing.
I can see that. I find it even funnier that the 2 collabs I've done with him have been like the haziest, insane IPAs that we've done. I feel like he got to it eventually.
Yeah, well, like even think about Lone Pine. I'm sure it's been updated a bit, but I still talk to him once in a while and send him pictures of the recipes I find in like old binders and stuff, and send him a picture of Nowhere, or not Nowhere, so that's our beer, Long Dark Voyage to Uranus. And
yeah,
I was like, look at this, like one of the first 2 recipes that we did of this Imperial Stout, and he was like, yeah, it's pretty close. So like, I'll just send it to him just to check in. But I think Lone Pine is essentially the same as it was, and like that was hazy, that was like, whoa, man, look at this, you can still read through it, but there's a haze to it. But now you're like,
yeah,
no, that's the bottom of the tank back in 2010,
And it's funny, and it's funny you say you got around to it eventually, because Juicin was still one of the first in Ontario.
Yeah,
arguably
definitely
the second that I'm aware of. I believe the Barncat was the first in April, I think, of 2016 or 15. 16, I thought. And then Juicin came like September, October, I think, of that same year. I always thought it was
like, and then Jutsu must have been within like a couple of months of that too.
And it could even have been in between. It's probably a good question to see where it was. But yeah, I always thought I know what you mean as far as like Sam being like the more traditional, like the purist. But I also think it's probably even funnier that they were also one of the first to do something that maybe his gut reaction was, "What the fuck is this?" Which I just think that's like hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, he was not like shut it down, never doing this kind of guy. You know, we did a lot of creative things together as well, and
Doesn't mean he has to like it, I
eventually
guess.
he's going to come around or just let someone else do it. Like Juicing was probably four
Caleb's
to six
recipe, I think.
months after I left it. Yeah, and Caleb
Right.
brewed it, right? So I think
Yeah, yeah.
without Caleb making it, Sam might have prolonged that more than he should. You know, so like
Fair point.
it's great, but that's also shows who Sam is and willing to work together with other people, and it's you need a team. You need a team to make a good product from start to finish.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. So for Merit, how long was the build between when you got the building and when you opened in May 2017?
Yeah, so the space that was or the lot there was an old Mexican restaurant called Mexican. They moved down the street and now it's called Mesa. Fantastic,
I heard about that.
beautiful
Okay.
Mexican food. It's I believe all women run restaurant as well, which is like just wonderful. Before it was a couple that ran it. I don't know the story really, but as far as we understood, because we had to acquire the liquor license from the land, they got a divorce, and that guy just like disappeared, and we actually had to like bring it to a lawyer to get our liquor license because the liquor license is tied to the land. So if you want to take over the space, whether it's a building or the lot, you have to get permission from the last owner of that license, and that guy just
Oh,
disappeared.
wow.
So that building, like most things in Hamilton, especially now, there's actually a law of just tearing things completely down. There's like a facade. I think it's like 5 or 10%. That's why you see kind of like partial churches up and standing nowadays.
Right.
People, I don't know. Hamilton's in a weird spot because like it's trying to grow. It's grown, but it's not grown as much as they were anticipating.
Okay.
I think by like back in 2016, they were expecting by 2025 the city to grow to about 750,000 people, and it really hasn't. COVID's kind of sped that up, but all these developers came in a few years ago, 2019 maybe. They removed this law downtown that was a height restriction of like 4 stories, and that was put in place, as far as I believe, to maintain the vision and the view from the top of the escarpment
Gotcha.
for the lake, like back in the day. And also, if you look at Hamilton, the bayfront and the ports are all industrial, and they still are. But then you have like the closest to the factory all the way up to the escarpment is kind of like the workers' homes and the small wartime homes. A lot of what you see as like houses built on top of garages, and you have like a downward driveway going into the garage. Those were originally homes that were built by a lot of Portuguese immigrants, and they were working in the factories but couldn't afford to build a full home. So they built the foundation and lived in the basement. When they could afford a full house, they would build on top of it and leave the basement or turn the basement into a garage. And you see that very, very commonly down here. And then the closer you get to the escarpment, you start to see bigger houses, kind of management, executive, and then, of course, on top of the mountain or the escarpment, it's only like 800 feet. You have gorgeous homes because those are the people that ran the factories and probably own the factories, So you can really see the lay of the land here in Hamilton, and kind of got on a tangent there. But the idea
No, love it.
was to not have the view skewed for these wealthy folk on top of the mountain.
Right.
And they've removed that in 2019. So once they removed that, all the Brad Lambs and the skyscraper developers moved in, buying up land but not really understanding Hamilton, and they started tearing shit down. Half of the Hamilton Center, which is attached to Jackson Square, has been shut down now for just over a year.
I remember.
And this guy was like, "Oh, we're gonna do like a $4 billion condo reno with like a mall underneath," and that's been paused indefinitely because of obviously pricing, housing costs, and like just the need for it. Like no one wants to spend that much money in Hamilton, so
Yeah.
you're getting these buildings torn down, but not completely. Long story short, we had to tear our building down. It was condemned. It was the joke was kind of like if you ate there, you sat by a pillar so the roof didn't cave in. And the further you got back into like past the kitchen and the storage, it almost looked like kind of like tin sheds that Canadian Tire that were all tack welded together. Mm-hmm. So obviously that wouldn't hold in like any kind of code, but also wouldn't hold equipment or anything. So for us, fortunately, but unfortunately, it was a full rebuild. Our landlords took on that risk, but we paid for like the modifications within the building for brewery and kitchen and that sort of thing. We got flack once we opened. People were like, "Oh, what an ugly building!" But just like anything, you become part of the woodwork. And we think it's a beautiful building. We like it, and it's what it is now. But we took almost exactly 10 months from first groundbreaking in July 10th. We were brewing March 28th, I think. So it'll actually be 7 years in a couple weeks for the brewery itself. But we opened May 11th. But yeah,
that actually seems like a surprisingly fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember talking with Rob Engman, the owner of Sawdust, after, and he was like, "What was your how much money did you go above budget, and how long did it take to build?" And we kept telling him all these numbers, like, fuck, like that, I've never heard of that before. That's insane. And we're like, yeah, well, we spent 3 years digging and doing the research and finding the capital and all that stuff just to make it work. We didn't want to be part of a delay. If it was weather, if it was, construction, that's fine. Nothing you can control as long as you're moving the ball forward. But for us, because we knew we weren't the experts in the room, we just didn't want to delay anything. So whatever had to happen, we made happen. And yeah. And as we were opening too, as we were building, I left Sawdust in April 4th or something like that, 2016.
Okay.
And then worked for Vessel Canning. So I was at, which was called Sessions at the time. And then they got bought by West Coast Canning while I was there. So I was the third employee at Sessions as well. And I was doing mobile canning for about 10 months. And obviously in the winter months, it gets a little slow. In January, February, I was already doing like partial weeks back and forth. And then February 2017, I went full-time at Merit.
And that was enough work going on to be able to get a paycheck and keep you going. That's good. Did you move to the mobile canning just because it was probably closer to home, or you could move to Hamilton and like just zip out here and there as opposed to being based in Gravenhurst?
Yeah, after I left Sawdust, I was, the idea was obviously to move here, and so kind of got out of Dodge and came here quick. Ended up living with Tage and his wife for about 2 weeks, and didn't really, I wanted my own space really quickly, and it was just a beginning kind of thing, and found a place here in Hamilton, got that job, and yeah, it was great. It was cool. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be really sweet, and travel around, see other breweries, ask a lot of people questions, and see how they did it. See how I could like maybe steal some ideas. And I tell you, it was eye opening. It was like, oh, just don't do that. How about don't do that either? That's a bad idea. And we did a lot of canning for cider companies. It was kind of the big boom of cideries, and we joked that it was the Wild West. It was kind of like a lot of people just throwing money at it without understanding. And we a lot of times went into these breweries or cideries and fixed their carbonation, fixed their beers, like made suggestions to them. And instead of learning what to do, we learned what not to do a lot of times. And yeah, I got, always loved packaging. I love machinery, and it made sense. I didn't think it'd be as boring as most people think, because no one likes packaging, but for some reason I do. I don't know why.
Oh, there you go.
I respect it. Nate, go on, sorry.
No, what I was about to say actually is my glass is empty, and I think we're at about time to crack another beer.
Yes,
let's do it. I'll catch up real quick here.
Yeah, no, you've been we've been keeping you talking there, brother. By the way, I don't mind. The tangents are awesome, and for me, I love hearing the history of Hamilton because I know very little about it, and it's fascinating to hear. So,
I love it. I love the history of it. I think that's kind of like what keeps me brewing as well. Just really into it. Also, I knew I'd talk a lot, so I brought extra glasses so that I didn't have to like
Oh, that's
Always
smart.
it.
beers. I'm
That's
still
the way
going
to
to
go.
drink it. I'm not an
Of course.
asshole, but
No, come on. Well, we always have like all the glasses. I got a whole bunch next to us so that we can move on to the next one if we're halfway down. I probably should have told you that beforehand to
no,
have a bunch of glasses.
this is my first rodeo. I know how to drink. I know how to talk and drink. And I hope I'm not talking too much. I know.
Oh my
I know
goodness!
that's what
No,
it's here
you're the
for,
guest,
but,
man. You're the guest.
Stop me at any time because
No, you're good.
I just go.
Just go for it. Well, we did a 5-hour podcast the other week, so don't worry about it. Like,
I know. I'm
it's,
actually secretly going to break that record tonight. I think.
Oh, Nate, you're calling in sick tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go in late tomorrow too.
What are we saying? Oh, what's the next beer?
Yeah, what's the next beer?
We didn't talk about
Is that my choice? Is my
That's your
doing
choice. Dealer's choice, brother.
that? I don't know. You want to do some strange animal? You want to do that one?
Fucking
Let's do
it.
that.
I mean, I in this one.
The other tall
love-
boy in the bunch.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this one.
I don't know if I've had this. Is this the first time you've done it?
No, this one actually
No?
is probably our second most popular IPA. We've
this?
made it now for probably almost 4 years.
Okay.
It started off really slowly, like once a year, and now we brew it. I'd probably say 3 times a year.
Okay. Let me see if I
And
have
is
a-
this
How the
is this
hell
a
did I
series
not
or
get
is this always Sasquatch Mosaic?
Yeah, it's always the same. This one is
Oh, it's always the same,
Kind of
okay.
the whole idea with the Sasquatch was the
Yeah.
play on
That
the
makes
song
sense.
as well. But yeah, no, like I don't know, we struggle as a brew pub trying to like categorize things or like what are we known for, because you want to make everything like a chef, you know. And with our IPAs, we have our Young Rival IPA, which is our flagship, and then we kind of set it to tiers and like what's selling well for us. Should we try and rebrew it, and what do we like? This one I love. So Sasquatch is actually the first Canadian proprietary hop coming out of BC.
Oh,
And
great.
paired with Mosaic, you get just like a really nice citrusy cantaloupe honeydew. This batch is just like popping right now. It's prime amount of time in the can, and like, oh yeah, it's just
Let's
I've
go.
been digging this.
That's amazing. And I noticed there on just looking it up on Untappd to see if I always like to check, see what's up. And there's a series like Strange Alien. There's a bunch of other strange series. What's the deal with that?
I don't know. Is there? I don't know. No,
Well, there
I
should
think
be. No,
you know what,
unless
we have.
So
No, I
tripping
think this
out.
might be the only strange. Maybe Untapped's got it
Strange
wrong. I don't know.
Alien
I tried
is
to avoid.
twice. Oh, I didn't read it. Strange Alien 7.2%. Maybe someone made it and it meant to be this one.
Yeah, maybe that's.
Oh,
I
one
know
of them
the-
has. Yeah, I think they must have fucked it up.
We've changed the label a couple of times, but
Because I like that. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't
7.2.
know about that beer. It used to be 7.2, or it is 7.2.
Oh no, it is now. Yeah, I get all the beers mixed up. It's like having 5 salads on your menu. You know, it's all vegetables at the end of the day.
It's like whatever. It doesn't even matter.
What's in this IPA? Like, hops. Hops are in it. But no, I'm just joking. For this, this one's a simple one. Just 2 hops, a really nice oat and 2-row base, like almost 50% to create that nice haze, and just following the parameters, the water profile and everything like that for a really nice hazy IPA.
Let's go.
So this was packaged 2.5 weeks ago now, so kind of just hitting its stride in the package. And unfortunately, we don't have date codes. We're not in the LCBO, and
Dude, I need
a
it.
date coder, like a used refurbished date coder, is like fucking $13,000 just for the equipment, and then like the
Christ.
ink is like $500 a cartridge. And you know, as much as I'd love to write stupid things on the can with the date code, it's just not in our wheelhouse right now.
Understood. In this economy. With
Yeah,
that,
and we're also not brewing multiple batches back to back, so we try not to confuse ourselves
that's
and
fair.
or our customers that way as well.
That's fair.
that's smart. That's a smart way to approach. Cheers, gentlemen. I'm excited.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, money. I said to me, very melony.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
As it
that's from-
mellows too, that kind of starts to come right through.
okay, and that is. Do you think that's from the Sasquatch?
Yeah, I mean, Mosaic has got that citrusy, beautiful kind of like candy-like quality. It's in our flagship beers. we use it quite a lot actually, and you start to pick up on the similarities of it. But Sasquatch definitely paired with this brings out that nice like orange rind, but then like this really sweet, playful honeydew, money melon kind of thing going on.
Yeah. Wow. And I liked it. Usually I find that the melony type of vibes come with like, unless I'm sort of misinterpreting, but typically like they come with like a real dank citrusy, which I feel like this doesn't have. So the melon really shines through this in a way that I don't believe I've experienced before.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cool. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I know, and I think like some breweries try to steer away from melon. Sometimes people pick it up as like an off flavor, but like I mean, what's wrong with trio melon trident? Like it's fucking heaven. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think
delicious.
I think the way I sometimes interpret that is melon. I sometimes associate with IPAs that have like a bit of muted flavor to them. And kind of if that's the only thing I can detect, it sometimes is coming off as like the rest of it's a bit muted, but that's really not the case here. Like the melon flavor is actually coming through quite strongly, and and almost like a melon candy kind of vibe, which I think is what you're talking about with the like with kind of what Mosaic is adding to it there, and it's quite nice.
Yeah, it's almost like. If you've ever gone to like sometimes at sushi places too, but like Korean barbecue, Korean like honeydew popsicle. Have you ever had like, oh man, that'll change your life. If you can find it at like Nations here in town, or like, oh man, or like the hard candies after sushi sometimes in like a green wrapper. I don't know the brand, but like
I know what you're talking about.
Candied honeydew is like, I know honeydew is kind of the hated melon, like I don't know why. I love honeydew. I'm an equal melonist. I don't know, but like some people fucking hate it, and I just reference the Simpsons on being the money melon, and it's good, but that candied honeydew is just like it'll send me, for my own opinion, but it'll send me over the moon for sure. I really like that flavor.
I love that. Oh, this is great, man. I feel like so that kind of comes back to something you were talking before, where you were like, as a brew pub, you're like, what are we known for? And I find that's an interesting question, because I kind of feel like you guys do a bit of everything and you do it all really well. Like when you guys started, did you have like an idea in mind, like we're gonna make killer X style or whatever, or was it just like we want to do a bit of everything and just do it really well?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think like, you want to put your best foot forward and make kind of everything. And sorry, dogs.
Hey.
Dog woke up.
I agree.
Donnie,
he's making points.
Donnie wants to always talk about things like this, but
I respect that.
I think the idea, dude. Hey, sorry.
No, dog friendly pod.
Donnie's got things to say.
I know. Well, we really believe in an IPA kind of as like when you go to a restaurant and like you want to judge it by the nachos or like the Caesar salad. Hold on, let me just stop this guy real quick.
No, you're good. You're good. This have you had this one before, Nate? Because I hadn't had this. I thought I had, because the label's really familiar.
So I'm not remembering it, but I know I've had it before because the label is familiar. I think I actually got a can of this that time that you and I dropped in.
That's why I know it.
Yeah,
that's why I know it. Was this when was that? That was time before last. So it would have been.
It would have been in the fall
when we went to St. James because Duran was closed.
Correct.
So
it was a holiday weekend. Was it Thanksgiving? That's what it was. Yeah.
Thanksgiving. So this was probably the last time you did this beer then.
Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, we try to brew this like spring or fall, or split it up, like do one in the spring and then bring it back a few months later. So
amazing.
That makes sense. But yeah, sorry. Like I was saying, fucking Caesar salads. Like I think IPAs are a good judge of a menu. If you're gonna have a bad Caesar or bad like nachos, you kind of know what you're gonna expect for the rest of the meal.
Right.
And an IPA is a good way to judge a brewery. I think. Like I've always been a hoppy drinker. Like Lone Pine was something that was always in my fridge at Sawdust, and Smash Bomb before that. Garrison had a double IPA. Like I love hops, and like it's now with these new lagers that I'm starting to find a new appreciation for malt and that kind of thing. But hops, hops are fucking queen. I love it. I think you can get so many different flavors out of it. It doesn't have to be bitter. This is just juice. And
Oh yeah.
you can also use an IPA to convert people like that. Like, oh, I'm not into that. And you're like, well, just I know, like, I get it, I hear you, but just try this. And like our Young Rival IPA kind of does that for people. We find we convert a lot of people into that because it kind of just it drinks like an orange Tic Tac. It's fantastic, right? Without like too much sweetness and
Orange Tic Tac, that's a great descriptor.
But I find as well as a brew pub, like I love hoppy beers. Like I just said, I love making them. I love drinking them. People are tired of them sometimes, but like there's so much to learn from them as well. I think you don't give credit for how hard it is to make stable haze. What people don't understand, I think what people don't understand is that like all of not only like our marketing for the last 100 years was geared towards crystal clear beer, but all the equipment that we use and have redesigned to fit small microbreweries was built for crystal clear beer.
Right.
And now for like generations, people have finding agents, clarifiers, different things that you can add to your beer because they want crystal clear beer, whether it's cold or warm or whatever. Now people are calling like, I need haze stability. And we're like, well, I hear you. I get it. Like, but how do you do that? Because haze is literally just solid suspended in liquid. And no matter how long or how well you brew that beer, gravity and time and temperature are going to take over. And that beer will clear up eventually, and we see that in the industry all the time, and people getting hazed for it, no pun intended, but like, it can be the fault of the brewer, but also like we're learning. Years ago when we started opening Merit, breweries that were very on the forefront of hazy beers were doing things like putting pectin in their kettle, putting raw flour in their kettle, like apple skins because of the pectins. Like that's where you kind of get the milkshake IPA kind of evolving as well. Like lactose, okay, well that's thick and white. Like what if we put that in suspension? And like all that shit's fucking like crackpot stuff, especially pectin. Pectin is a gel. It'll clarify. It'll actually like make your beer clearer over time. And we were like, oh, you got to do that. But now we kind of understand it as pH, hop ratios, and also grist ratios of like wheat or oats, a higher percentage of that to balance out and create more haze because that's what it's doing,
I know Bellwoods was doing all of those things you mentioned with Milk Shark. I think they like publicly they said they might have even said it on the pod.
I remember Luke saying that they did that they added flour on the pod.
It was on the pod. Okay, good.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. That stuck out to me.
Yeah, which is like it's just cool of him to sort of admit what they were doing, but it was I guess at the time they wouldn't be doing anything like that now, I imagine, because that was probably a bit more of a, for lack of a better word, like primitive way to achieve the end goal. Whereas like now, like you said, you got oats and all these other different things. Milkshake IPA is obviously the lactose, which I hadn't heard contributed to the haze, but it does make sense. Yeah, I feel
that's just kind of me winging it, but I think like in my opinion was someone's thought process at some point, keep adding these suspended sugars, keep trying to like make things bigger, make things thicker, how do we outdo our neighbor kind of thing. And IPAs have always kind of been like a stupid competition anyways, with like the IBUs coming first, right? Like Hop Stupid from Lagunitas and all that stuff. It's like, over 100 IBUs. I'm like, well, your palate stops tasting everything after like 70 anyways, so what's the point? And with the West Coast, we believe that you needed a backbone of bitterness to create more juiciness. And then all of a sudden we're like, no, it's like sugar content and all these other things that like we barely show our hops any temperature at all so that we don't extract any of that bitterness from our product or into our final product. And yeah, it's a pain, but like I said, like there's so much to learn about IPAs, but it's a great way to judge a brewery because there's so many bad ones out there. Not breweries, just IPAs, and they age poorly. They're produce. It's like especially here in our sweet, sweet province of Ontario, the LCBO, let's say you have put a product on a shelf under incandescent light, which used to be more of a concern. Obviously, in cans nowadays is a little bit different, but under incandescent light in a room temperature setting, you have 3 weeks and your IPA is dead, whether you packaged it right or not. That's exactly like a head of cabbage. Like, it's gonna go bad. It's decaying as it's sitting there, and unfortunately, people don't understand what they're buying. No one's told to look at labels and date codes, and then they're like, "Oh, this is like I get the caramel and I get the butter," and that's dead hot. That's old.
Off flavor, my guy.
Oh yeah.
If you taste those like square caramels in Halloween in your IPA, that's an old IPA.
That's a bad IPA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, don't.
No one's putting that in there on purpose.
Yeah, you can drink it. It's fine. It's not going to hurt you, but it's not what the brewer intended. And oxygen obviously can be a big thing, and there's so many things that factor into it.
Yeah, those fridges in the LCBOs are cool now.
Oh yeah.
They help.
It's coming along. It's coming along, but it's a saturated market, and not everyone can fit in there. So breweries like Bellwoods or say Left Field that started with cold storage only and demanding that, they did for a long time, and eventually it's kind of stifles you. You have to say, okay, fine, put it on a shelf, because you're only going to get a handful of places, and not every LCBO, which
has
640 of them. I think there's 640 LCBOs now. Not all of them have fridges,
I wonder how many have the walk-ins, because those walk-ins, I feel like almost everyone I go to here in Hamilton, at least, have a walk-in. So like all the beers are colder, but which I think is great, because when I go to other stores and I see the haze sitting on the warm shelf, even in a can, I'm just like, oh, these are
no,
fun.
thank you.
I'm not buying it. And I go in there. I don't really shop. Whenever Tiff goes in, I typically would just go in, just have a little look-see, see what's going on. I like to just keep up on it. I rarely buy stuff from the LCBO, but I always check date codes. And I see stuff 6, 8, 10 months old, like hazy IPAs from breweries that I know the people from, and they would be pissed to know that the people are buying IPAs that old and not getting, like exactly what you said. They're not getting that experience from the brewery intended, which just sucks for everybody.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's like ordering something from Au Pied de Couchon and tasting it 4 months later. Be like, well, that wasn't exactly what that chef meant to.
Not quite.
Meant for you, and it sucks because there's a lot of dedicated people to that channel and to sell beer through the LCBO. It is it's a great channel if you use it, but it's very demanding of your time. And there's, like I said, 640 locations that you have to call or visit every store if you want that store to pick up your product. So,
it's a lot.
Some product does fall through the gaps, and it is a government-run agency. So it's really weird because, here I am as a brew pub that doesn't deal with the LCBO, but I do have a lot of experience with the LCBO. What other company in the world buys a product and just shits on it? Like, nah, we don't really care. Just throw it on the shelf. I'm like, you guys paid for it. But then, if it doesn't sell, they charge you for destroying it and all that shit. So regardless, they're making money off you. But
it's
such is life, I suppose.
It's a strange system, man. It was really. Coming here from Australia was what is this? I thought it was kind of cool at first because it's somewhat convenient, but then when you actually sort of get down to it, it's gate kept to a degree, and there's it's you sort of have to. It's kind of like radio. If you're an artist, you're making songs, LCBO's the radio. You've got to water it down a little bit, or put the beers that are going to sell in there, or change the art so that it suits the type of people who shop in LCBOs as opposed to going to breweries or whatever. It's a necessary evil that kind of sucks. So I imagine, actually, I'd be curious on your take on this then. Go on, Nick.
Yeah, I was just further to your point. I think it does help new drinkers for sure. It helps.
It's true. I shouldn't shit on it.
It helps new drinkers discover breweries that they wouldn't have otherwise. We've all been there. It's
gateway.
When you're first starting out, it's perfect for gateway because where else can you find in Ontario that many breweries in one spot so easily.
Yeah, you know what? That's
Yeah.
why I got into craft beer as opposed when I did the selfie bullshit. Like I went to the
Exactly.
LCBO and I went through all of the macro, all of the Euro stuff. Then what was left? It was like in 2011, it was Wellington, Muskoka, fucking
Great Lakes.
Grey Lakes. What else? What am I missing? Like BAOS, maybe I think.
Yep. Sawdust.
Cameron's maybe, yeah.
Cameron's, I
Black
think.
Oak.
Yep, exactly,
Black
right.
Oak, yeah.
So then you start
Yep.
going to local stuff, and then we Trafalgar, start visiting
Oh, yeah,
Nickelbrook.
Trafalgar.
Yeah, I went to Trafalgar with the old big, which is I think All or Nothing or whatever it's called now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Nickelbrook with the old gluten free and the apple pilsner and all that stuff, green apple. So yeah, you are right for that. I guess I'm probably more thinking of it from the more 2024 perspective. So you are right, Nate. I think it is important for breweries to do that. But what do you think, Spinney, about the potential? I think once the Master Framework Agreement expires at the end of next year, 2025, the possibility is open now for convenience stores and other and every supermarket as to being restricted to, I believe, 450, which it is now. What do you think about that? I know probably a two-part question. One, what do you think of it in general? Like, is it good? Is it bad for consumers, for breweries? And two, do you have any aspirations as far as Merit's concerned to get involved in any of these other distribution methods outside of indie bottle shops and your own space?
Yeah, I guess I'll start by saying like I'm definitely not an expert in this, so anything I'm about to say makes no is not going to hold up in
Opinion.
court. But yeah, like with my experience, like it's cool, I guess. Like, oh, okay, like we have another avenue. I know that's what kind of craft beer has been fighting for a long time. It wasn't fighting to remove what exists; it was just trying to add to it. With having another channel to sell our products at an even level. Now that it's on our doorstep, it's interesting. They're trying to still implement a lot of different things. Like I don't know what was recent. They wanted all private stores to record everyone's purchasing pattern. So like if you bought a beer from a local store, yeah, Tage was just on CHCH News yesterday with Steam Whistle and Lake of Bays talking about this. And they're like, yeah, they were like, okay, we want you to record like where they're coming from, who the person is, their information. Like for alcohol, like that's pretty backwards. Like that's like post prohibition shit, Like
Yeah, there was
you're tracing people.
Yeah, there was a story about that about a bar and and bottle shop in Toronto recently. Bossa Nova was one that had that went through the same thing. Like the AGCO said, do you need to record like name and address and and whatnot of everyone who takes beer to go, and they were saying that we'll follow the rules if you're saying we have to do this, but like that cost them customers because of course people don't want to fucking do that. So and it was a backwards ass thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your story there, but that just reminded me there of of that happened really recently. But sorry, please continue.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy?
What was the intention? Why did they want that? Why did they want?
I don't know.
What's
they just want to fucking track. They just want to figure it out. It's like
who's
guys
they?
are reinventing
The
wheel.
AGCO.
Like, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, I'm not really a super expert in this. I talk about it a lot with other people, but like I don't deal with it very much. And from a producer standpoint, which I can speak to as someone that's a maker and a brewer, it's exciting to have another avenue to sell your beer, but it's also daunting. Like that takes that takes a sales force, that takes a delivery team.
It does.
To be able to go to every little store, that's exhausting, and not everyone's going to handle your product the way you want them to. So that's also a challenge, So it is great. It's great for small business. It's great for people having another channel to sell and make money from as well. But
Right.
From a small producer, yeah, it really isn't in our wheelhouse from a main focus. Now, with the LCBO coming on board with the grocery stores in the last like 10 years, less than that, of course, but 2015 maybe was when the first like grocery stores started
like
to take
that,
on
yeah.
product. You know, they're very demanding of how you package your product, how it's put into 4-packs or 6-packs, whether it's enclosed or not. And they don't really give a shit, you know, but the grocery stores still have to like purchase through the LCBO,
Yeah.
but like you still have to call the grocery stores, but they're like, yeah, we don't really care. Like, well, they just know macro European lagers are what's going to sell, and that's great. But I remember being there at the first. I will say this from a experiential point of view was at Sawdust. We did go to the first few expos of trying to present product to grocery stores, and we were there as Sawdust City, and every single executive, and that's all there was there, just people in suits, walked right by us because they were looking at a piece of paper that showed other like the breweries that were there, their sales numbers, you know, which was BAOS, which was Steam Whistle, which was the big guys, and they didn't give a fuck about us or anyone else. They do now, in a way. I guess they carry their products, but they were like, yeah, we're not interested because they're used to dealing with mass producers, right? Longos, Fortinos, like local grocery stores, Loblaws, Sobeys, like they want to know that you can produce and as much as they want, not anything else. So
Yeah.
you know, it's cool, it's great, but it brings other challenges. You know, we talked about third party shipping just for this podcast to make it happen, you know, and like as a small producer, you really have to pick your battles. And I think over COVID, it really taught us how to manipulate ourselves to like move product in different ways. You know, the first 2 years that Merit was open, we sold 98.6% of all our product out our front door. We had a list of restaurants and licensees that asked for our product and really wanted our product. And it wasn't a thing that we didn't want to serve it. You know, we were a little bit cautious because exclusivity is also kind of demand, but you don't want to be a dickhead, you know, you still want to sell your product. And but it turned out that we didn't need to. We were crushing like 258s of our IPA almost every day in the summertime. You know, that's 116 liters almost every day. Like we couldn't keep up with our own demand. And then COVID happened, you know, and then we were like, bam, we stopped. And everything went into package, as we all know. I'm definitely not the first person to talk about this, and I don't want to dwell on the past, but we manipulated our sales focus and made everything into package. You know, the first May of COVID, we would do on average since we've opened about 1,000 bottles a week. We would package, so 4,000 bottles a month. That first May in 2020, with a small skeleton staff, unfortunately, some people were laid off. We packaged 20,000 bottles. You know, that's 5 times the amount. We were doing like 4,000 bottle runs a day, and that was me and one other person. You know, so we just did what we had to do to make it happen. And now we're on the other end of it. We've opened up our licensees. We have well over 200 licensees around Ontario. Not, you know, we don't put a keg in everyone's shop every week, but we have our regulars. We have, you know, just like sales, you know, how many times you go to the corner store, everyone's different, but we still sell a lot of beer out our door now because we have to, but we want to as well. You know, that's a big thing. We want our product to be in other people's hands, not just because they're in Merit. We need that beer out in the world so that people come to Merit. You know, our focus is our hometown. We make beer for our community. We're a brew pub, and we love that. But you want people to come see your town as well. You know, and Hamilton, unfortunately, had a bad rep in the past, and it's a beautiful city. Anyone that doesn't think so should come, I guess, if you really want to. But, you know, we're also in the shadow of Toronto, where you have this mentality that, like, Toronto first and Toronto's best. And whether you're from there or not, it's hard to leave the city. But guess what? You know, you can get from the Exhibition Go or Junction section of the Toronto to Hamilton faster than you can cross its own city, you know. And once you learn that, you know, it's actually a beautiful place. We have the most waterfalls in North America, or maybe Canada, but I'm pretty sure it's North America.
I think it's North America.
Gorgeous place. You know, we do have a facade of the Eye of Mordor coming into the city. If you go on the Skyway, everything's on fire, and it is a steel factory town, and that's what we've built it on. I always joke that the East Coast has salty dogs, and we've got rusty dogs. Just a bunch of old people like, wow, we survived. Let's see if you can. But that's changing too. From the ashes of the rust comes artistic creation and a renaissance, and that's what we're trying to really drive here, I think, in Hamilton. So for us, those channels aren't that important, but we will seek out the people that want to take care of our product. Does that make sense? I don't know. That was kind of a long
well,
thing.
Absolutely makes sense.
It's beautiful.
We love what we do, and we want our product to be in the best hands. We're not going to sell to every gas station and corner store, but yeah, if there's bottle shops that, fortunately already exist, we're going to keep selling to those people because that's great. Yeah. But in terms of the laws and stuff, yeah, it sounds like they got it asked backwards the way they always do, and they just did it with weed legalization. They could have looked at alcohol, but they didn't, and here we are kind of expanding the alcohol concept, and they're not even looking at themselves. So it's just going to take some time, but it'll figure it out because tax dollars speak volumes for the government. That's how they survive. So,
yeah, for sure. Do you know what's funny? I was talking to Tiff about this tonight. We were talking about what she was reading. There was a nightclub promoter friend of hers that was on Instagram, and she was reading out this post that he did, and basically how the nightlife industry is kind of falling apart because Gen Z isn't drinking. Gen Z doesn't want to pay cover charge at places, and then how do they pay the DJs? And then they're going in there. They kind of have this expectation, entitlement that they wanted all stuff for free, and it's I never thought of it before. Why don't they make THC drinks legal to have at a bar, so you could go to a bar and you don't drink alcohol, but then you can still kind of get lit? Well, why can I buy beer at the LCBO, but I can't, and I can buy beer at a bar, but I can buy a THC drink at every weed store in the province, but I can't go to a bar and buy a weed drink. I thought that was an interesting thought that I'd never considered before, going out and have a casual I'd seen some brewery. There's a brewery in North Carolina I know that does THC drinks alongside their craft beer, which is
that's awesome.
Which is I don't know, when I see regulation, kind of all the things you were talking about, it's all we have to nothing's real. None of this is real. Humans made all of this, so humans can change all of this. People are living on the streets and stuff, and then money isn't real, so we can change it. But we don't, and all of these laws and rules and blah blah blah, they don't have a reason. It's cool if things have a reason. Obviously, seatbelts fucking save lives. Cool, no problem. We need rules on the road, or people are gonna, die. But other things in society just seems to kind of get caught up, and we're caught up in 100-year-old alcohol laws from the more probably, and
from so many things that are this way just because they've always been this way, kind of thing, is what you're getting at, I think.
That's the 100%, bro. That's the worst possible answer you can ever get. Why do we do this? Because we've always done it this way. Shut the fuck up. I hate that shit. So it's it annoys me more, right? This is what I'm thinking. I forgot the stats. Tiff and I did a pod a while ago about this, and it was the stat of if you look at all of, I can't remember if it was an Ontario or a Canadian stat, but it was even though obviously macro beer is generating much more revenue across the board, the amount of households and actual human beings that craft beer supports is in the hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet you are doing, when I say you, the government, are doing everything in your power to not let, if someone in Vancouver wants to buy Merit online, well, fucking let them buy it. Who gives a shit? Right? All of these rules are insane, absurd to the nth. It's ridiculous, and it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not. I was in Quebec for 10 years. Just came here a year and a half ago, and obviously every gas station, every supermarket, every dépanneur had craft beer forever. So what's the fucking problem? People aren't dying in the streets from it, so what are we doing here? It took COVID to let Quebec sell, if you had I think the Tide House license, but say Jus de Ciel. If I went to Jus de Ciel in Laurier or Montreal, I couldn't buy Péché in bottles to go. I had to go to a dep around the corner. But it took COVID to change that rule. In
And
Ontario,
you still can't ship to consumers in Quebec.
and you
so-
still can't ship to. Thank you. That was the one rule I thought they'd get around to, because it all happened while I was there, and I was really looking forward to that because I didn't have a car, and I was like, yes, this might be my way to get stuff fresh from different places that weren't distroing, right? Then on the Ontario side, the independent bottle shops, cafes, restaurants, all of those different things are able to essentially become a mini bottle shop, which I think is the coolest thing in the world, but really didn't get spoken about enough. But it took COVID to make that happen, and now it's taking a master framework agreement expiration of the beer store, which is supposed to be fucking government owned, and then ends up being owned by multinational, multi-billion-dollar craft beer megalith corporations, like that, to expire for them to fucking put it in something that Quebec has been doing for decades. Like, the whole shit is, and this is just Quebec and Ontario, I'm sure every province has their own ridiculous stuff, and every state in America, and I know Australia is just as ridiculous. Like, it's frustrating, and it's just so silly, and it's not real. We can change it. It's not real. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's crazy, eh?
I feel you, bro. I feel for you more, because it's like, do you know what the other thing that pissed me off? Sorry, I know we're just like bitching right now, which is fun. The other thing that pissed me off, fucking hell. You go to Vegas, you go to Savannah, Georgia, you go to Key West, Florida. You go in the streets, you drink anything you want. Savannah you had to have it in a cup. Okay, cool. You go to you just pull up to a bar in Key West, and you just like, can I get a Yingling to go? Yes, sir. Boom. And you're out in the street drinking glass bottles.
Isn't that crazy?
No one dude, it was the greatest experience of my life. Like, because it felt so naughty, but like, I didn't see one fight. I didn't see glass smashed. I didn't see anything that would indicate a decrepit society in decay because of like drinking alcohol in the streets. Like, what is the problem? Like the distrust of citizens, and the lack of sort of, we're adults. Like, I understand, obviously, as soon as you turn 8, or it should be 18. I don't know why it's 19 here. It's silly, but like, just fucking, like, let people do what they want, bro. Like, I don't know. If the three of us went and had a drink in the park right now and cops come, we would get ticketed or whatever the problem is. But people are there. I saw a guy shit on the street with his fucking cock right out, and probably had just done some sort of hard drugs on Canon, like a few months ago, before it got cold. I'm like, and he's fine. But if we got caught, you could be shooting up stuff, whatever it is, and you're good. And then if we drink a beer, then we're going to get I don't know. The whole thing is just absurd, and that absurdity is frustrating when you're really looking at, in this economy, the inflation, all the things that people are dealing with right now. Like, why are we making it harder for businesses to thrive, particularly when craft breweries alone, like I said, is like, I think it was the high 600 millions per year is what it was contributing to the GDP of the province or the country or whatever it was. It's sorry for the rant, boys, but
no, I think that's
you got me started.
Right? Like, that's shit that they can control. That shit they already have in control, and they just government's selfish, So it's perpetual, unfortunately, and at the moment it's just getting worse. But like, if they control it, they just want more control, and they just want to squeeze every dollar they can out of it. Even if you go back a couple of years ago, our sweetheart Doug Ford here in Ontario, instead of like taxing or creating another thing that might have made sense for making more money for the province, they created, they made the smart serve temporary. Like, you have to now recertify, so you're now costing bartenders and servers that, like, I got my smart serve in like 2014. I was like, okay, cool, one and done, great, who gives a fuck, I got it. And it was so old that, like, when I had to renew it last year, I had to like email them like, my number's not even on file. Like, what can you dig up your paperwork and actually like help me out here? And they were receptive, sure, but like, now I got to pay, just like everyone else, you got to pay $35 every couple of years to renew your smart serve. Like, why didn't you do that for driving license, or make like a cycling license within the city? I know fucking cyclists will probably murder me for that, but how many people do you see on bicycles disobeying the law within city limits? Like, if you're riding your bike in a small town growing up, who gives a fuck? But if you're on the streets of Toronto, you're also a liability, and like, that would pay for infrastructure, for cycling lanes and other things like that cyclists want. But then, like, there's no accountability for it whatsoever. But let's tax these other people that are making minimum wage or below minimum wage because it's a server, sure, tips are fine, but that's the job. You could walk out with $10 or $800. Like that's the risk you're willing to take and the shit you're willing to put up with as a server. And now all of a sudden you're being told you got to pay every couple of years for your license just to serve people alcohol. Like I don't know, it's that's the government. Like
Yeah, I could
and with
see I could see maybe recertifying if you haven't worked in the industry for like X number of years or something like that. That might make sense. But for someone who like for someone who's actively working in it, like that, it just seems like counterproductive bureaucracy. Whereas exactly like you said, I got my G license when I was 19 or something like that, and I haven't had to take a single driving test since then. I'm 37 years old now, and I'm not going to have to take another driving test until I'm 70 something.
yeah, and you know how
There's
many
something
laws have come out
something
since
that
we got
doesn't
our
quite
license,
track there.
And how many laws have changed since we got our license? Like we didn't have cell phones
Yeah.
when we got our license,
No.
like and they put new laws in all the time. Like in the Hamilton, it was fucking just like anywhere. It has terrible drivers, but everyone thinks they're a good driver. But when you got a good server, they know they're a good server. The industry weeds out the poor servers or the temporary ones, anyways, and bartenders and managers. But don't eat them alive. And the same year, he fucking took away the license plate thing. So now you're, oh cool, everyone gets free license plate shit, but
Yeah.
let's fuck this small industry that's already suffering
Yeah.
more. It's just fucking backwards. I'm not a politician. I don't. I read enough and I learn enough about it to stay relevant and to vote and to make sure that at least I'm trying to be a part of society in a way. But it's so fucking frustrating. We've been born into a broken system and we're not going to fix it. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
Whenever I bitch to people because I was buying a place here, and then within a year our mortgage went up 40% because of inflation or whatever interest rates, and I actually understand. I started asking questions because I never thought about this stuff, and I was like, "So what's up? What's this inflation or interest rate? Why are they just changing? Was it the interest rate or was it inflation? It was one of the two." And basically, the whole thing is ridiculous. Inflation went up to stop people. It was inflation because it goes up to make things cost more to stop people buying it. So instead of reducing buying power, which is the negative response, as opposed to, hey, people want more shit, let's make more stuff so then we can make more money and create more jobs and more economic stimulus. And it's that people are yeah, it just doesn't work like that. They just do it. That's what it is. And like you said, so it's a broken system that completely is illogical. And they go, so whoever I was telling, I forget who it was you're being too logical. It's not how it works. And from a bit of a naive point of view, I just thought maybe things might have been logical when it came to economics, but apparently not. So it's
and I guess that's what beer is for at the end of the day,
Yeah.
so that we can talk about this shit. God damn it!
Yeah.
Speaking of that,
ridiculous.
And on that note, we
Yes.
should crack another one.
yes.
I'm in.
Spinning. Do you want do you want to? You can just keep calling him.
No, I don't want to run your show here. Whatever you guys want to do. What do you feel like? Do you want to do you guys blindly grab something, or you'll just ooh, what?
No, we'll just think what makes the most sense.
What makes sense? 'Cause
why don't I call the next one? So we've done we've done the Dort, we've done Strange Animal. Why don't we do
great.
the orange wine lager now? Why don't we do fine wine?
Yeah, perfect. That sounds great. I'm into that.
that. Nathaniel, taking charge.
Love it. Thank you. I hate making decisions. My partner and I always joke that we wish there was a third person in a relationship just so that they could pick the restaurants that we can't decide on.
Just decide
what
you're having for dinner, which which movie or show you're watching.
We just watch the same reruns because we're like, nah,
We can't think of anything.
I don't know. Next show, just let's watch this. Let's watch 10 episodes of this while we pick a movie that we're never going to watch.
I know the vibes, brother.
Pick a movie that you can fall asleep in front of.
That's what you need.
Exactly, yeah.
So, orange wine lager, what a concept. Do you want to explain this one, Big Dog?
Yeah, fuck. So, this might get a little poetic, I guess, but
Poet it up.
I just want to start by saying we didn't invent wine beers, and we're not taking credit for them whatsoever, but we do like to call them wine hybrids to blur the lines between beer and wine. The old cats and dogs thing of male, female, drinking wine and beer. Like, that's such fucking bullshit. I fucking hate that so much. Like,
That's so
beer and
silly.
wine is for everyone, and so is every other drink, and that's so fucking dumb. But this was kind of a concept to try and bring beer drinkers into wine and bring wine drinkers into beer. And it starts, I guess, being from Niagara. I've kind of split my time growing up on the East Coast and in Hamilton, as we talked about yesterday,
Yes.
or in Niagara, sorry. And I love Niagara. It's a beautiful place. It was a beautiful place to grow up. I'm really appreciative of it, and I still love it to this day. I don't have any family there anymore, but I try and get down there for some friends, their families, and of course, pizza. Niagara has really good pizza. If you haven't
Really?
been, either oh yeah, so many like Italian immigrants from back in the day. Oh,
No shit.
dude. Oh yeah, like there's a pizzeria
tip.
there that's like 115 years old. Down, it's fucking gorgeous. It's right next to Buffalo. It's right next to Niagara Falls, New York, which is where the pepperoni was invented.
In New York, in Buffalo,
Yeah, Western New York.
gang.
German or Italian immigrants after World War II, salami and things like that actually evolved into pepperoni, and pepperoni was invented in Western New York, and that's kind of where you see this like Battistonis, and here in Hamilton you have Venetian meats, and those are all
Okay.
the Roni cups, the pepperoni, like the grease chalices, if you will, like the little cup and char pepperonis. That comes from
I
Western
have
New
no
York
idea what you're talking
originally.
about. I need to find out what those things are. What did you call them?
Sorry,
Pepperoni cup?
that's just like my stoner pizza fucking talk. Pepperoni, like cup and char, is kind of what the name has come to. The idea is that a natural
Cup and
casing.
char pepperoni.
Yeah. So what happens is there's I can't remember the guy's name. Food
Oh,
scientist
wait,
wrote
just
wrote a lot of books.
okay.
He actually did a study on like why pepperoni curls into like a cup, and happens to be like part of the natural casing, the way the meat was injected into the sausage itself, the
Oh,
cooking itself, and then the way they slice it. It's like certain thickness, and then as you put it on a pizza, of course, the cheese and the sauce act as an insulator, and the pepperoni cooks from one side. And like those old toys like at the arcade or whatever, you'd cash in your tokens for, and you could like pop them out, and then it would like bounce and pout backwards. That's what I think about when you think of like cup and char pepperoni. But because
that's
of the natural
fascinating.
casing, it curls as well, and
Oh,
it'll hold this like nice little pool of grease in it, and it just makes
Yeah.
fucking good pizza. And like,
oh man.
but yeah, Niagara like has not only really good pizza, but some of the best soil in the world. It's black gold there. You grow beautiful wine,
Mhm.
beautiful produce, and that's kind of why it's such a successful biosphere. And obviously, again, not going back to government, but Doug Ford's kind of attacked it over the last couple of years, and that's been shut down. But it's still affected by growth and sprawl, but it makes beautiful, beautiful produce. And growing up there, we have a lot of friends that have inherited their family farms. They're like 7th to 10th generation. Some of them have been there since before the county lines were drawn. And one of my buddies, I think he's like 7th or 8th generation. His farm has an oak tree on it, and the tree line divides the farms, and it's so true to this degree that they designed the rest of Niagara from this like one property line of his oak tree. Like, God, that's so magical and beautiful. Like, why would you want to preserve that? Why wouldn't you want to support that? And if I haven't said it already, Niagara's fucking gorgeous, and I just love it.
The
It's a
best.
beautiful, beautiful biosphere, and it makes great wine. Now, talking about Niagara wine to other people that aren't from here, or we've done a lot of traveling with beer and gone down to the States a lot to brew with people, and have some friends around the world that have come and brewed with us, and we're like, oh, Niagara wine, like, oh, Niagara wine, let's go drink it, it's so good. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and if you look in old magazines, like ice wine was kind of the thing. It's a cool climate wine area, but
Right.
the reason why no one really knows about it that's not from this area is because if you combine all the wine volume in the world, Niagara produces 0.1% of all the wine.
Wow.
So
shit.
it's a dot. Yeah, it's a tiny, tiny dot. But like there's probably close to like 230 maybe 250 wineries in the area. Like, it's gorgeous, and that's what's driving up costs down in Niagara, of course, because it's beautiful, beautiful soil, and it comes from glacier erosion. It comes from what are you doing? Receding glaciers. It comes from Niagara Falls and like feeding nutrients from the water as well. You know, there was some really old battles there back in the 1800s and the American Revolution where a lot of people did die, unfortunately, on the soil, and you know that does add to nutrients to the soil as well. And the clay, there's clay there's rock, and grapevines themselves love stress. They want to dig deep. You know, if you go to Chardonnay in France, like it's all rocky, and the vines have to send their roots down like 30 or 40 feet just to get nutrients. So they struggle and they stress, and like just like making a good product, I guess, like the vines themselves really struggle, and that's what kind of happens in Niagara. But you know, there's a lot of nutrients, so they don't really have to stress as much. But the environment's different, the temperature's different, the climate's different, and we have the escarpment in Hamilton, where I'm sitting right now. As you're sitting, we're at the bottom of the escarpment, which is a glacier recession that goes up about 800 feet, and it's a really interesting area for geological like study, but it also produces wonderful things, and this is one of them. So this is a Riesling lager, and there's only certain grapes that grow well in here. As we kind of go through climate change and are about to be affected constantly for the rest of our lives, things will change, but what used to grow here might not be growing well anymore, or they're adapting. Thick skinned grapes really like to grow here. So Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, Riesling, Chardonnay, cold climate Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing they were really known for was ice wine, because of obviously our winters. Ice wine can only be picked, I believe, you know, if someone is listening eventually, tell me I'm wrong, but I believe that ice wine and certain type of like winter wines have to be hanging on the vine for a certain amount of time, and then they can be picked only at -10, but the -10 has to be for like 3 days straight. Ooh. And what that does is the cold like absorbs the moisture and freezes and crystallizes. So when you press the grape, you're getting more concentrated sugars.
Right.
So just like beer, where we're extracting our sugar from barley, wine grows their sugars on vines in the form of grapes, and the stress and the struggle of the grow year really determines and differentiates the vintages and the quality of the grape. So we have certain things that grow really well here, and we just want to celebrate that. So that was a really long way of saying Riesling is good, and Niagara Riesling is very different from a lot of other Rieslings. You get a lot of like stone fruit, a lot of lychee, a lot of pear, grape, of course, fresh autumn leaf, and a made-up word called minerality. You're getting that from the soil and from the clay. You're getting that from like the other minerals in the ground, and a lot of fossilization that's happened over time. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's really, really nice. So I could go on forever, and I'm sure I will, about wine hybrids. Everyone does it differently. You know, Burdock in Toronto does some. Everyone kind of has one on their menu now. Sawdust has done a few. Our take on it is trying to use wine techniques and wine ingredients that perfectly blend with beer recipes and beer process as well. So with this beer here, it was the first few years were actually a Saison. And a Saison ferments, you know, roughly between 22 and 26 degrees Celsius. So above room temperature, you know, doing little like warm yoga, if you will. And
love that.
That stresses out the yeast in a good way for those esters and polyphenols to really show through in the smell and the nose and the flavor of those beers, as like, you know, clove and banana and those flavors that we love in Saisons. Now that works really well as long as you're making a red wine. Red wine and ales kind of ferment similar, really warmer, room temperature warm. But we learned over time and hanging out with a lot of winemakers that lagers and white wine are very similar. They like cold temperature because there's a lot of aromas and flavors in white wine that are very volatile. So they'll disappear or flash off during fermentation if the fermentation is too warm. So we started this project called Either Way first year, and we took a Saison and split it into two and aged it and fermented it on red wine, two different red wine grapes. And in Hamilton, we have a really old Portuguese and Italian community that, you know, built this whole city. And as people leave, we're starting to see businesses disappear as well. But there are still a lot of like crush pads, like a lot of small U brews, if you will, you know, for winemakers. Everyone's grandpa made wine here, so they're still existing. It's great. Like in the fall time, you drive past them and they're sitting on these old like Astro van back seats, you know, just like these like carpeted bench seats, and they're all like hacking darts, just sitting in their patio or the parking lot. And the moment you pull up in a vehicle to order grapes, they all jump up, press the grape as fast as they can, put it in buckets, throw it in your van or your truck, and then they sit back down and have their smokes. And it's so cool. It's such an interesting like industry here in Hamilton. And we started buying buckets of grape juice from these old guys. And we went that way, and we're like, can we get the grape skins and the vines? And they looked at us like we were speaking French. Like they didn't really understand. We're like, no, I guess so. Like we throw that shit out. But learning about wine is obviously very difficult and very hard. And when we started, I remember at Flying Monkeys, I acquired a few barrels from Malivoire, I believe, and great winery here in Niagara.
Yes.
And Sam and I did a lot of work with them as well. And it was weird, like, because we saw ourselves kind of as like plumbers and janitors, because that's what I see myself as every day. And, you know, we didn't really glorify it, but winemakers, ooh, you know, it's fancy, it's beautiful. But like winemakers have dirty knees too, you know, like they go to award shows with mud on their boots, and they're not the same people that drink the wine, you know, that winemakers are farmers, you know. So once we learned that and broke that barrier down, we were both willing to talk about our products and learn from each other. And I'm sure I'll get crucified, but like a lot of winemakers, like I said, they're farmers. They grow their grapes. We don't. We buy our grain. So they get one shot a year. You know, they get one chance a year to make a good product. We can reproduce our beer every day if we wanted to. I just have to order the same ingredients. And then, sure, barley is changing over time and adjusting, and we get a malt bill just like the back of a hockey card. We read that and see what's different from our last lot or batch and make adjustments as brewers. You know, I always say being a brewer, it's like painting with a different color but the same picture every time. You have to mimic it exactly, but you just have a slightly different color blue, you know, and that's kind of how it is. But winemakers and brewers are very similar because we both ferment sugars. They're using fruit sugar or grape sugar. We're using barley sugar. And really, we produce different acids during fermentation. And if you want to simplify it, and I like simple things, the main difference between winemakers and brewers, besides all the stuff I just said, is acid production. They produce different acids than we do, and vice versa. And if you want to simplify it like that, you know, I'm willing to take that crucifixion and get yelled at. But like that's it. Like it's really, really fucking cool. And you know, they're measuring as grapes ripen, sugar levels go up and acid levels drop. And that's what they're measuring. And when they think it's right, they look at the weather and they're looking at everything that's up against them, and they say, now, let's pick now. And it sometimes can be a difference between 6 hours or a day that can make a world-winning wine or like a piece of shit wine. And it's all about the winemaker. And for them, it's also about their future crop. So it's not about what you do to the crop today. It's what you put in the soil now that's going to affect it next year or the year after. So when you really break it down, you know, they're thinking about future stuff. We're just scheduling beers to be made next week. So they're fucking way deeper than we are, but there's so much to learn from them. But on top of that, it's their process, like how they extract grapes in different regions. Like it's such an old thing, just like brewing, that there's so many different ways to do it. And you learn from everyone and you take what you like from it. We obviously have some things that we can't do that wine can do, but we also can do a lot more things than wine's not allowed to do sometimes, like legally or even just like naturally in the process. Like you just can't do it. We use CO2, they can't. So like we already have a benefit on that side of things. And that being said, this Riesling lager was co-fermented with Riesling juice, fresh pressed right out of the press. What they do is they press it in a big bladder press, those big tumblers that you see, almost looks like a dryer that you have in your laundry room. And it has a swelling bladder that just inflates with air. And that pressure squeezes the juice out of the grape. And then what's left is the skins or the seeds and all that stuff. And in red wine, you need skin contact to extract that color. If you ferment a red wine without skin contact, you kind of get a rosé, or even sometimes like a white wine, depending on how concentrated that juice is. In white wine, there isn't much skin contact, pretty much none. You don't need it. That's not white wine. You want juicy, fruity, or Chardonnay, buttery, oaky, and make other things, manipulate the flavors. With orange wine, that kind of blurs the lines, and it's a modern trend, but a very old thing. And white wine, as simple as it is, orange wine, as simple as it is white wine treated like red wine. So skin contact. You're extracting acids, tannins, and other flavors, colors, and more alcohol or sugar to ferment as well. So this beer is co-fermented with fresh pressed Riesling juice from the press. They settle it out for a day just to clarify it. We come and keg it off, which, a winery's never seen a keg. So we show up and we just shoot the shit for a while, and they would talk about kegs. And then we go home with the fresh juice, put it into the beer. Depending on the beer, we add it right away, or with a lager, we'll let it go a little longer before we adding the juice, because it could stress the yeast out with adding like more pressure, more sugar, and all that stuff. But luckily for us, the sugar coming out of the grapes is really simple. So this ferments at 11 degrees. Learning what I said earlier, white wine ferments like lager, and we learned that the hard way. But the cold temperatures really hold on to those flavors. Now, it's minimal, because as a brewery, we don't have a wine license. We can only ferment up to 30% non-barley sugar or non-grain sugar. So we can introduce wine, we can introduce fruit, but it can't be more than that. Now, you can buy a wine license. That's no problem. You can, spend the money, which isn't that much money, and do all the paperwork to get a winery license. And then you can do whatever you want. You can blend at any percentage. You can ferment at any percentage. But because we don't have that, and we looked at it, we thought about it, and we don't need to. This is our way of making wine hybrids.
Right.
This ferments for 2 weeks with the grape juice, and then is transferred at the end of fermentation onto the skins, or as soon as possible, depending on how the schedule goes. And then goes into a secondary fermentation, fermenting the rest of the sugars in the skins, as well as extracting acids, tannins, and color. And this is the end result of that amalgamation. Like, I love it. This is one of my favorite beers that we make. All the wine hybrids are very special to me, but this one really every year just keeps hitting home. And just to put it in perspective, we got about 2,000 liters of this product, and it was aged on almost 3,500 pounds of grape skins. So it's far, far more than like a dry hop, but it creates a beautiful product at the end of the day.
That's crazy, man. Thank you for all that explanation. This is great because there's a lot of context, which I think wine hybrids definitely require. They aren't, like you said, you mentioned Burdock. I can't really think of many others between you two that do this type of stuff in this way. So this one, this is 7.5%.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
7.5. Yeah,
it does not taste it. Usually, kind of what we were talking about. Excuse me, earlier.
In fact, I had not realized that, and that is. I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed maybe 4.5. That's hefty.
Yeah. It's drinking beautifully. It's super effervescent. The white grape is definitely coming through. There's a bit of like citrus pith. Kind of some of the notes you mentioned as you were saying, I was like, yes, like the stone fruit, the lychee, and the pear. Like, it's certainly there. So it's one of the things I wrote before you said that was it's giving me like cider vibes a little bit. And I guess maybe that's just like the effervescence of the lager with the kind of the white grape and all of those things combined, kind of reminiscent of cider.
Totally. And I find a lot of people
Delicious.
make wine hybrids, and it's just like pure acid sometimes. You're like, oh, and we've done that too. We've totally made fucking
Acid.
vinaigrette essentially. But this one as well. Well, then we can condition this. So this is can conditioned. We add a certain amount of sugar and some more yeast, and then prime and carbonate within the package itself, giving a longer shelf life, kind of like a wine, but also creating that bright effervescence of that carbonation that should bring that aroma and flavor to your nose and mouth as well.
Hell yeah!
I love
man.
this one. This
It's
one
fascinating.
really is like the pure definition, in my opinion, of like a wine hybrid. It is lager up front, wine, and then like you said, like a little bit of cidery notes and crispness on the back end, but it doesn't linger on your tongue. It's not acidic.
No,
It's fruity and playful, but dry as fuck.
that's a good point.
Just
No,
like
it's
white wine and lager should be, in my opinion. And I love it. I love it. This is one of my favorite wine hybrids we make for sure.
I can see why. Would this be one of the first things that I started thinking as we were sort of talking about all these tasting notes was the gateway potential for a beer like this, being that you said it's not acidic, it's not too beery, it's not too winey, it's like a little kind of like it's like almost funky, a little tangy maybe. Tons of great fruit flavors that would be familiar to a lot of people. Have you noticed, something like that, like a gateway potential to people who are like, oh, I don't really like beer. You're like, well, do I have something for you? And then they try this and like, oh shit, this is, like, well, maybe you do like beer type thing.
Oh yeah, all the time, especially being on the cusp of Niagara. We get overflow tourism here, but also
Not surprised.
we do get a lot of people that are like, I only like wine. And we do serve everything at the bar. We have cider, we have wine, we have kombucha, we have non-alcs. We got everything. Everything you could want, we've got there. And we don't produce
That's a
everything,
fact.
that's for sure. That's way too much work. But like, we want to be accessible. And this is a great example of that. I think it blurs lines and it confuses people in a good way. You want to have that like fireworks effect sometimes, not all the time, but like a nice little wow sometimes. And we've seen people's opinions change on both sides, beer and wine. Like, holy shit. But we recently started pairing this. We just did our annual beer dinner in February, and we did a cheese pairing for the first time with a local cheese producer.
Nice.
That we love, called Utterway. We actually make a stout cheese with them now as well. But we did a full pairing, and this was the banger. Like, we saw people sipping it before we even started talking about it, and they were like, go buy some. Like, I think we labeled like 3 cases for that night, and the last dude was like, I'll take 6. I'm like, actually, I only have 2 left. I'm like, boom. All right, I'll take the 2. Yeah. But like, it flew. And, as much as we love all our products, hopefully for the most part, they're not all bangers. You can't you can't bat 1,000, but we try our best, and we put our expertise forward, and we'll also stand there and explain to you what we don't like about the product too. I think that's a big problem with the industry, is no one wants constructive criticism. And early on, I was more than willing to hear it from anybody. And you gotta pick your battles and know who you're speaking to as well. Like, someone doesn't like it, that's fine. But this beer, I think, just changes opinions and blows minds. It's not clear. It can be crystal clear, but we want that slight haze. We want that natural look to it as well. For a couple of years as well, it was called Clockwork Orange Wine Lager for obvious reasons. And we were working with a winery at the time, and they were like, excuse me, we actually have a orange wine called Clockwork. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Like, this isn't your idea. There was a movie that was written back in a long time ago. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you, but like, that's fine. That's totally fine. So we changed the name out of respect, and that's fine. Once in a while, more often than you'd assume, you do find products called Clockwork online, and I love sending it to that winery and be like, oops, here's another one. Here's another example of not your original idea, but
guess what? You were not, in fact, the first ones to think of this.
It was a guy, Stanley Kubrick, I believe. I don't know.
Mysteriously died after his movie exposing the Hollywood stuff.
Ego's getting in the way, I think. But as a brewer, you're always susceptible to opinions, and unfortunately, our products are judged, and our products are full of opinions, and that's great. I think that makes it exciting and makes you want to put your best foot forward. But for this beer, when you're kind of creating something and creating something from nothing, and more so compost in a way, like a lot of these things are
To go ahead
a
and look
lot
at
of
it.
work. It's a lot of labor, I will tell you that, but it's a labor of love. Like, you can produce a beer schedule. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. If you're especially running the floor as well, you have to make sure all your ingredients is there, all your products are there to make this beer. That's great. Cool. Now try injecting winemakers into that essentially do their work based on weather. And you're like, so hey guys, like during harvest season, 2 years ago, the harvest was done in like 3 weeks. This harvest this year was like almost 4 months. And it's just based on climate and temperature and the growing season. Like, you could have a banging year starting May, June, July, and we go hang out with our winemaker friends because we're friends and we like hanging out with people, but we want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And every month they're like, "Oh yeah, this is the best year. It's growing, everything's banging. The rain is good, the sun is good. It's not too like wet." And then August hits, and then September hits, and they're like, "Fuck." It's wet, it's rainy, and just like hops, grapes have big palmy leaves, and those cast shadows, those hold on to water. The grape clusters are very dense, and as a grape or as a vine absorbs water from the ground and from the air and the rain, grapes swell. So as the water content goes up in the plant, the grapes burst or grow too big and hold on to water, but the water is reducing the sugar content, and they're measuring their sugar content. So if it's too saturated one day, they have to wait 2 days after a rain to even think about picking. And that changes their parameters and their targets. And for us, trying to plan a schedule based on someone else's schedule that's based on the weather, it's a fucking nightmare. But for some reason, I keep going back to it, and I'm like, yeah, give me more, make it hurt. Like, let's do this. And it makes a good product. Like, we can schedule as much as we can, but we still have to be adaptable, but also keep our products flowing at the tap room. So we've had years where we fucked it up and didn't release a beer for a month because all our tanks were full of wine beers. But we got through it. Here we are. We're still here, but we've learned our lesson. We've dumbed it down. We've dialed it back. Sorry, not dumbed it down. We've dialed back how many we produced, and we handpicked our favorite ones. And this one, I'm glad we started with it because it's one of my favorites. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this shit goes, man. I didn't know all that stuff about wine. I feel like I've spent a reasonable amount of time in wineries, but I hadn't heard a lot of those things, particularly about the rain with the swelling and all of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, then they can get like rot, just like hops.
Right.
And their grapes can actually burst, and when they burst, it's garbage. They could grow all year, put all their effort, all their time into it, and then in 2018 or 2017, I think, was like an epic year of just rot. And people like in Niagara especially have plots of land that they own, and they sell the grapes to wineries, and it's all done third party. But like, some of these paychecks are like 100K for a farmer. That's a side hustle that, like, fuck, that pays for your life, and
Yeah.
people were showing up with like tons. They weigh everything in tonnage. They like, how many tons did you press this year? We look at hectoliters. They look at tonnage, and that's coming off the vine. And people were showing up with their entire crop, and crush pads, third party companies or the wineries are like, can't take it. It's gross. Like, it's raw. It's rotten. And people were just losing hundreds and thousands, if not millions of dollars down the drain because the crop was bad. And so when you're relying on Mother Nature, who's very humbling and also a very sweet thing, it sucks, when your crop year doesn't take off. So for us, being in a clean room under incandescent or fluorescent light, like, we're happy that we can reproduce our product, but they get one shot a year. And for us,
that's it.
we're secondary. They don't really care. But I get a call usually on Friday nights. My partner calls it Friday Night Grapes. I get a call at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Okay, we're done. Come get your grapes. I'm like, fuck. I know this is the last thing I want to do. So I hop in the van, load my containers up, and bring a yard work shovel with me, and I scoop. And so does my team, but I normally will do it because I know it sucks. go and scoop like 2 tons, 3 tons,
Jesus.
1 ton,
Holy
sometimes only
shit.
400 pounds. It depends. But by the end of it, we're usually doing about 16,000 pounds of grapes per year by hand, shoveling after they press it. And so it's also, you want to put your best foot forward because they've put so much time and effort into these products and their wines, and they're proud of them as well. So we want to do them well, or do good by them. Sorry, to make these products. So it's a pain in the butt, but it's a labor of love, and doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. But I love these beers.
Man, this is I don't feel like we could even come closer to talking about it, like poetic and shit. I feel you.
God, yeah.
It's just fascinating, and it's something that personally I imagine maybe Nate as well. Like, we're not really something that I'm exposed to a ton, as far as like wine hybrids. I've drank a bunch over the years, but
they're few and far between for sure.
yeah, and I feel like yeah, I don't really know what else to say. This is phenomenal, and it's so easy to drink. It's so easy, and it's so fucking dangerous that this is 7.5%. Because this is
kidding.
This shit will go down. I was gonna say, how do you guys feel about a quick piss break? Because I can pause this, and then we can come back, keep kicking on.
Crack the next one, keep it going.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, boom. All right, we're back in a sec. All right, we're back. Never
And
seen
we're back.
3 bladders so empty ever. Never seen it.
You say that every single episode.
Oh, do I really? I really think I'm being witty.
That's hilarious.
Oh, every single time.
Refreshed.
It's getting emptier and emptier every time.
I honestly really thought I was being funny every single time because I didn't realize I said that before.
More empty.
Fuck! Do you know that's
You've got
the problem?
worst fucking memory on the planet, man.
Like, how many pods have we done, and how much alcohol do we drink during the pods? I just have I have a bad memory though. You are right though. It's terrible. So I left the rest of that orange wine. I yelled up to Tiff. I was like, "Yo, you need to try this. I'm leaving this here for you. Come and get it." So let's get into the next one. So
sick.
what do we think?
If you want more, I got more cans for you. If you want more.
Oh, that could be that could be
I'll
necessary.
take care of you.
You're the man. You're the fucking man. So, boys, we got a bunch of choices right here. We got some gems.
Yeah.
What's the direction, young Aaron? If I may call you Aaron.
Sure.
I feel like I have to ask you to
young
call you Aaron.
I don't know. I was young at some point. I'm not.
Nah, you're young Aaron to me always. Okay.
Don't
you forget
I appreciate
that.
that.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. They're all pretty big heavy hitters, but I would say Happy Place is lower ABV, a little bit more funky. So I don't know if we want to go into that one. By and By is one of my favorites. We could go with that one. Or Nowhere is the heaviest hitter, but also a really cool conversation too. But yeah, all 3 of these are sick. So
I'm cool to go where you lead us, my friend.
All right,
Yeah,
let's you go. What were we gonna
You
say?
tell me. No, I was gonna say let's
okay.
let Uncle Aaron tell us.
Oh god damn it. Now you're making me sound creepy. Let's do Happy Place. Let's go.
Happy Place it is.
Let's do
Hey,
Happy Place.
we've all got that creepy uncle, and I look forward to being that guy one day.
That's funny.
I'll get there. All right, Happy Place, great name. You got some cool name. I like the name Fine Line, by the way. It's just really cool. This is a very attractive can. The designs and actually that's something else I definitely want to chat about. Just the Merit aesthetic, because I think it's fucking gorgeous, and the logo and the light bulb, the beautiful stemmed glasses. One of the greatest looking things I've ever seen in beer, like hands down.
And how that translates into the aesthetic of the brew pub as well.
Yeah, it's just money. Like, it's so nice, dude.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It was like it took us 3 years to build everything and plan everything, and we didn't really want to leave any stone unturned. And we had other breweries we helped consult with, and we spoke with as they were opening. We have I'm not taking credit in any way, just helping friends. Open up what their dream that was simultaneous to ours, and some people were like, "Oh, our big thing was like, what are you going to call it? What's the brewery name?" And they're like, "Nah, we'll figure that out. That's going to be like a later decision." Like, whoa, like you gotta fucking have that. You gotta believe in it before it happens. If you build it, they will come. And I think for us, Merit was a beautiful name. It came from my partner Tej. His grandfather immigrated from India when he was like 11, and ended up in BC, as far as I know. He was put into the school program here in Canada, and as English as a second language, kind of struggled, and he ended up dropping out and getting into the workforce. And eventually, as he worked through his years, became a sales rep for I believe a door-to-door company that sold things. And there was a competition one month that was, the best sales rep or the most sales wins a Cadillac, I believe, a nice car.
Damn.
Let's just say.
Holy shit!
But I think a fucking Cadillac. So he was like, "Fuck yeah!" and he gunned for it because he was also really good at what he did, and fucking won the car. And that kind of put into motion his ability to. I don't know if he sold the car or whatever. Tage isn't here, unfortunately, to speak on that. But what I remember is he used the car as collateral or sold it to start a furniture company, and that still exists, I believe. He just mentioned that there's 5 locations still that are running, called Merit Furniture in BC, and a lot of people that we speak to that are from there are like, oh my god, I know that, holy shit, I drove past it all the time. And I think some of them are online now. I believe this family now has sold their part of it. It doesn't really matter. That's not a part of it, but they still exist. And to Tage, obviously, that was very important to have like a family connection. And Merit for him meant something different than the word itself. But the word has a really great meaning too, right? And to us as brewers, it's quality and integrity and merit. If you can't define a word with its own definition or with its own word, but that's it. Like, it was merit, and I was like, yeah, that's fucking sick. Let's do it. And merit was
cool
to
name.
us so many things, and as we knew we loved Hamilton, we started to learn about it. And Hamilton is a city of first. It's the first city in Canada, if not North America, to have AC power. DC current or a direct current was, a Edison invention or, innovation, I guess. I don't know if he stole it or whatever, but then fucking Tesla, he invented alternate current, and that's a lot safer, and that's what we use today as power. It's a lot more powerful as well, but it's a lot safer and a lot more energy efficient and blah blah blah. I'm not an electrician, but it's a great way to power our lives in 2024, and it was when he invented it. And Hamilton also had the first street light because of that, and that's why we have the industry as well, because it was the first city with power like it, with that much energy. And Niagara Falls being down the road now is a power plant that powers, the eastern seaboard of America and a lot of Quebec, a lot of Ontario. And we remember the blackout in like 2001 or whatever that had happened. And crazy. Like, it took out so much of the two countries because of Niagara Falls, fucked up. But
no shit. I hadn't heard about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I was going around, I was like in high school, and my buddy's dad was like, go find us ice. And he made me and my buddy ride around the town in Welland looking for ice at all the corner stores. We went to like fucking 12 stores and no one had ice because everyone already bought them, and they're adults with cars. And we ended up at the last grocery or the last corner store. I'm like, yeah, we got ice, but they're like half melted. Like, it doesn't matter, we'll just fucking take it. It was like surge pricing before surge pricing was a thing, and we show up with these melting bags of ice just so his dad could keep his fucking beer cold in the garage. It was hilarious.
That's great.
That's Hamilton. Like, we that's why we have the steel town, and other things have affected it, and it is what it is. But also the first Canadian Tire was Hamilton, the first Pan Am Games, the first Hollywood Star back in like the 30s came from Hamilton. The first Tim Hortons is here.
Yes, Ottawa.
Yeah, there's a lot of firsts, and like, who cares? But like, it's kind of cool. It also has a really unique history, being a port town and border city to the States, that it's accessible to, rum runners and those kind of things. And there's a fascinating mafia history here that still exists. I believe the city is still involved, or has at least 3 families still involved, and there are like targeted shootings that happen once in a while. Not that it's the other day, come to Hamilton for the wonderful shootings, but it's interesting, I guess, and because of that, before Toronto was Toronto, it was Hogtown. It was a smelly factory town, and Hamilton was the other jazz city. So you had Montreal and you had Hamilton, believe it or not. So you had a lot of people like the Rat Pack and Frank Sinatra coming through here, singing their songs and eating at the steakhouses, and that's why there's like these really cool, like over the shoulder, over the fucking arm, like towel service steaks and steamed vegetable dinner spots that are disappearing but still exist here. For us, that was like, holy fuck, this is so cool. So we were like, yeah, like we already knew we were already sold on Hamilton, but like that was so sick. And
That's kind of gangster.
It's beautiful. And I've just like keep reading into Hamilton history. My partner and I have done like cemetery tours, which sound really creepy, but like holy shit, you learn so much from these like rack-on tours that are telling these people's stories that like essentially developed the RBG, other like historical areas like Dundurn Castle and all that stuff. And man, it's so neat, and it's all accessible to the public. All you need is a library card. You can go to all these museums and all these beautiful spots. Like, sick. So Tesla invented this alternate current, and Hamilton received it, and now we have Tesla Boulevard and all those things.
That's why, because
of that.
Did he give it to Hamilton? What was his connection with Hamilton?
Yeah, I don't really know his connection to Hamilton, but he ended up coming here and like building the infrastructure, and the city allowed it. I think it was like he rubbed the right shoulders. He knew like Hamilton at the time was developing into kind of an ugly city, and some of the upper echelon like rich families were like, we don't like that. We want to make it really beautiful. And because of that beautification almost 100 years ago, we're now experiencing these gorgeous like I said, the RBG, a lot of like lowland hiking areas, beautiful waterfalls. The waterfalls come from kind of man-made, housing on top of the mountain. Water is going to find its way down. We know that as brewers, it's going to find the easiest path of resistance. So you do have these waterfalls that happen, unfortunately, because of building and growth, but also a lot of them are natural as well. Yeah, it's just a beautiful area, and it's a very protected area. Even though there is a massive steel town here, we have lowlands that are like very, very protected. And because we have the Royal Botanical Gardens and Hamilton Conservation, they work very, very hard to keep what Hamilton has beautiful, and it's super fucking cool. I love that part about it, and that's the best part about Hamilton is you drive past it, and like I said, it looks like the Eye of Mordor. Everything's on fire, and then you come inside and it's gorgeous. It's so cool, right?
I love it.
So
I found out the Tesla thing is, so Tesla was in Hamilton in 1898 when he helped build the first hydroelectric generating plant in Canada. And another one says Hamilton's cheap electricity caused its manufacturing boom, which is instrumental to the city today. And that is why the street is named after him, because he essentially caused that cheap electricity, which caused the boom. And in 2016, they named Nikola Tesla Boulevard, which
cool.
I didn't know then. So that fucking Hamilton gang, bro.
Yeah, when you're driving down King Street and it goes to this weird point where all of a sudden it turns into a two-way street, like very, very almost Stony Creek, and there's a pizza that's like a triangle building. You know where Gage Park is? That beautiful park.
Yes, I'm very familiar.
Okay. That's the first street light in North America. That's the very first traffic light.
A triangle building pizza near
There's a
Gage
McDonald's.
Park. The Mac is there. The Mac is on King.
You know what Cafe Bafico is?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So you know how it like kind of splits to go to Bafico, and there's that Dollarama and stuff.
The Dollarama, that's his first.
That streetlight is the first ever streetlight in North America.
North America.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it's like it's so
city.
Cool.
Oh,
but like it's rusty. It looks gross, but it's a beautiful fucking city.
I feel like it's like
that's where our light bulb comes from. Sorry.
Hey, no, that's a tangent and a half, and I love it. This is
story ever for a fucking light bulb.
This is a history lesson. Honestly, like for me, this is incredible. I love this shit so much. Just I'm really trying to understand the city, and this is giving me a lot of context. And
I know I like to talk, but let's hang out more. You know.
We need to. I know. I meant to. Yes, we need to do that. Nate, get your bitch ass down here, bro. Shit, I know you're from
Yeah.
Burlington. Like, fuck, jeez.
Yeah, man.
It's not that
What
far.
the fuck? This beer specifically, by the way, you know it was really funny, by the way, because I was like, I'm taking a picture of the beer and I noticed something flashing, and the light behind me, the BAOS light, like I got a little, like the dude who did it for me did a great job, but he gave me a hood ass connector thing that is like I had to strip the wire and like try to connect it, and I'm not an electrician. It was very funny. You were talking about Tesla and the light bulb and everything, and that shit blew it. I'm sitting there twisting wires, and as I'm doing that, the camera battery died. So it's all these things around electricity. It's very what's the word? What's the word when it all sort of like makes sense? It's very synergistic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Either way, let's talk about the fucking beer.
Yeah.
This beer, 8.5%, big bad boy. It's a Cab Franc Skin and Vine Saison.
Yeah.
Happy place. You want to? I think you just do a better job than me talking about it.
No, I
gorgeous
could
color.
totally be quiet for a while.
I'm gonna let Nate. Nate, you tell us about the beer.
I just chat.
Just chat, but it's like a nice, beautiful red. I'm getting a lot of like tannic piquette type of vibes. It's funky, tangy, kind of like earthy, perhaps because it's got the whole like skin and the stick and the vine and the and everything on there. Very effervescent, super easy to drink, just like the last one. Insanely dangerous.
Oh yeah,
brewery.
big time.
This is
Very.
this will fuck you up.
Yeah, like this again could easily be like 5.5. Never
Yeah.
mind 8.5.
Yeah, very crushable, like very effervescent. Both these beers would be
Yeah.
very like hyper sparkling.
Yep, I definitely get the tannic vibes. So like some kind of mild red berries, is the thing that comes through pretty easily. It's super tasty, very easy to drink.
Yeah, this is super chill, man. Like, it looks like the last version was 7.2. Is that right, according to this?
Yeah. So these are like treated more like vintages. Obviously, you know, with wine they try and
Oh, it's
keep the same
2024?
alcohol. But yeah. 2020. This is actually 2022 harvest year.
Okay.
We released it in September, so we released this beer as close as we can. So this is going back to like scheduling, as close as we can to the start of harvest in Niagara to celebrate the start of harvest and the end of a growing season, but giving homage to it from the year before.
Gotcha.
That's all. That was just like
That makes sense.
we
If
don't
you were
tell
to-
anybody that, but that's what I think it is, and that's
Okay.
what we do. That's what
Okay.
we do every year, but we don't really like get behind that too much. But
2023.
yeah, this is the oldest wine hybrid that we make. We've been making this almost since day one. It was a long time idea, and it was originally called Then, and it just got hard to talk about then when we were producing it, and because we would always in meetings be like, and then I have to package then, and then we gotta dip then with wax, and then we gotta sell it. And we're like, fuck, this sucks. So
And then we have to
changed
then
it. We changed it to Happy Place, and yeah. So this starts as a saison base. It's very simple, 50-50 wheat to pilsner base. We have no secrets. If anyone ever wants a recipe, I have no problem talking about it because everyone's gonna produce it a little bit differently. But this stems back to Sawdust, and I was gonna say something else about Sam, but Sam and I went to go do a project with a chocolate company in Toronto called Choco Soul. Choco Soul is a beautiful company, really, really cool. The guy created an oven that roasted cacao beans, but also would roast corn, and farmers could use it, whether it was plugged into electricity or it was solar power. And this oven would actually get hot enough to like not only produce income for farmers, but produce food for farmers as well. And that's how he started his chocolate company. And so we were like, hey, man, we'd love to, as stupid brewers, you know, just like meeting winemakers, we're like, hey, we'd love to use your cocoa nibs. Can we like come and hang out and learn something from you? And he was like, sure, yeah, come on by. So we came down to, it's on St. Clair, kind of by Reinhard and Junction and stuff, not too far down the road, I think. Beautiful chocolate. They actually make the only white, like true white chocolate bar that's an
Mm.
albino cacao bean. That's called a Jaguar bean, and it tastes like peanut butter. It's really cool. It's almost brown, not white as we know, like white chocolate. But fuck, it's so cool.
So when you say
Um,
true white chocolate, do you mean like white chocolate that's actually chocolate?
yeah. They found this
No way. I did
tree.
not know that was a thing.
This one producer found this tree somewhere in South America and started harvesting from it. And they were like, it looks like peanut butter color, but it is a albino cacao bean called a Jaguar bean. And he found this farmer, and his whole thing is he connects with farmers and just like buys directly from them, giving the most amount of profit to them. And like I said, this company was really cool. He was a very eccentric human being, but he had a gorgeous story. And then he worked with these Oaxaca, I think they're called Oaxacas, uh, chocolatiers in Mexico, and they're very protective of their shit. And he earned their respect, and they taught him how to make this chocolate. And because of that bean, he's now like got farms growing this albino Jaguar bean, and it's so fucking good. But he sat us down and was like, listen, like I get a lot of people that want to work with me, and that's great, but like I challenge you to use something that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or how do you use this in a different way? And I was like, fuck. Like I sat there and I took that to heart. That was like 2013 or something like that. And with beer, you have to drink it. You still have to drink it. You can't chew it. We've made there's fucking slushy beers. There's a lot of things out there now, but beer should be drank, right? With food or whatever. So we have a parameter right up there, but you challenge that. And like I always took that to heart, but I was like, okay, I don't really know how to do that now, but I'm always going to think about that. And when we started doing wine hybrids, this beer was essentially stemming from that. So I kind of say this project started in like 2013, 2014. And it was a way to use part of the grape vine that normally would just be turned into compost or burnt in a different way. So what happens after harvest is, winter happens and the vine goes to sleep. All the sugars go into the trunk, ideally, to protect the roots, and that's how plants survive without photosynthesis. If you ever drive past the vineyard, you have the horizontal wires growing across, and that trains the vines to grow horizontally to give the most exposure of light to the fruit and to the leaves. Now, in the wintertime, obviously they don't need it, and come spring, right before the frost or the defrosting, the vineyard managers and the workers go out and cut these horizontal vines, which are called canes, and they cut them back so that the root and the trunk can be protected until the spring, and it gives the best regrowth. Kind of like if you ever grown vegetables or weed, when you start to get two leaves coming off and then another top growing, you top it or you cut it, and then all of a sudden those two leaves become the two trunks almost, and you get more produce out of that way. So that's what vineyards do. They're just trying to maximize their grape clusters, but also like get the best quality fruit. So they cut these vines back and just throw them in the field again to decompose, or they actually put them in compost piles. And just talking to a buddy, I'm like, yo, can I come and get some of those? Can I come and get some of these vines? And he's, I don't give a fuck. Like, just like the skins, they don't do anything with them. They just compost it for their vineyard the next year. So we grabbed these vines, dried them out, and I had our chef take a 25 kilo bag, which is a standard malt bag of Pilsner, and we smoked a bag of Pilsner with these vines until we thought it was good enough. We do it by eye every year. We record everything, but every year changes depending on temperature and the vines and everything like that. But yeah, we smoke Pilsner. We smoke our own. We make homemade smoked malt using the vines. Then we brew a Saison with that adapted Pilsner bag into the mash. You get a little bit of smoke coming off the mash itself, but the idea for me was to make a Cab Franc deconstructed in a way, not to get into like a modern chef kind of idea, but like the thought of taking a Cab Franc tasting notes and pulling the best words from it, like tobacco and leather and sometimes smoke, but not in like a true traditional form. Plum and dark fruit, those kind of things to recreate this Cab Franc without making a Cab Franc. So we smoked a Pilsner bag, made a Saison, and then aged it on the same grapes that were grown on those vines. So every year, those vines are smoked for the Pilsner malt and then added back into the fruit later on. So I think it's kind of magical and poetic. So we named it Happy Place because I thought that was a really moment in time of like a happy thought. So this one is our longest running vintage. Every year it changes based on the amount of sugar content and alcohol left in the skins. Fermentation happens after we add them in, but we kind of celebrate it like a vintage where every year the alcohol is different. So that's kind of why you see the range fluctuating. But this is now this has been packaged for over a year, and you get a little bit of funk from the Brett coming off the skins, because as brewers we control as much as we can in a clean environment, but winemakers, you get what you get, and like you're controlling it with your own process, and you're stopping other things from happening with your own process and your additives and stuff. But over time the Brett really kind of comes through on this beer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this would be like that's
a really cool story.
legit fascinating. So then this one would probably be the 2023 vintage, I guess, as far as if you're talking vintages, being that it was canned last year. Okay, gotcha.
Release, yeah. But the grapes were picked in 2022, and the vines were harvested in 2023, brewed in 2023.
So it'd probably be the 2023 for that case, as far as when the beer is produced. Typically,
yeah, I
would
always
say.
have a hard time with like what's the vintage, because like I like to think about it as the grape, but when
I know what you're
producing
saying.
also matters too.
Yeah. Would you ever put it like on the label, like put like Happy Place in brackets 2023 or what, or whatever it is on there?
I think in the past we have had that. I'd love to get back to that too. We've gone through some marketing changes in the last couple of years, and we actually have some big changes coming up for us as well. So you might start to see some label changes in our future, especially come harvest year, which we're very excited about. We have a very positive curve on our marketing right now, which is fantastic. But yeah, Happy Place, I love it. I think it's magical. Every year the colors kind of change. This is the darkest color that we've had, and that also comes from harvest years. So one little interesting thing about, well, for me anyways, I don't know, this might be fucking boring, but with red wine or any other, like any natural blue, purple, violet, or red that is in flowers, blueberries, grapes, apple skins, that's called an anthocyanin, and it's a flavonoid compound that creates color based on acidity within its plant. And that's what we perceive in our eyes as color from natural plants. So you could extract those with skin contact, and that's why that's also so important with red wine, because you would, like I said earlier, get kind of rosé as fermentation. The fermentation reduces things like bitterness, hoppiness, fruitiness, or color. And I always say, like, fermentation is kind of like drawing a picture and slightly erasing it. You can lose up to 15% of flavor, color, or aroma. So you have to add it in. That's kind of where dry hopping comes in, or anything like secondary. You want to, how you use your ingredients is going to differentiate itself based on whether you added it pre or post fermentation. And so anthocyanins are extracted from these grapes over what we do. We do about like 28 days of skin contact, which is considered pretty high in the wine world. But for trying to get the extraction out of like a pale beer, you need some time and you need some patience. So that's what happens. This is a ruby red beer, but like there's also color stability in wine. So every year, based on the growing year, you sometimes get good color. Sometimes you get color that will fall out. And you can actually, I've never really seen it myself, but you can get stratification or layers of color happening in a wine bottle that just sits for too long too, based on the growing year. So there's nothing to do with what we're talking about, but now I'm just talking. But This is fucking sick. I love this beer. This is one of my favorites. I think I have every vintage in my basement, and one day I want to do a full flight of
Vertical.
them. But
Yeah.
Nice.
I keep adding to them, and you're like, oh god, now I gotta wait another year for the next one. But we just brewed this. This is actually in our fermenter right now, from the 2023 harvest and the 2024 vintage release. How about that? That sounds like it, right?
Yeah, 2024
harvest year.
Yeah.
2024
I feel like
vintage.
I think that would be something you could note on the label. Like it would be if you were going to put Happy Place in brackets 2024. Like that would probably be the beer. Then you would note that it was using grape from the 2023 harvest.
Yeah.
I think that's a probably fair way. Whereas, what do winemakers do? Do winemakers just use the year of the harvest?
They say the harvest year, yeah. So it's like the year that the grapes were picked off the vine. So the moment it came off.
Gotcha. That's the difference between the two. Okay, yeah. I think there's something cool about that because then, like you said, exactly right. You can do those vintage verticals where you can sort of like try them all side by side and see them change. And, you know, the ones who have been sitting there 5, 6, 7 years and then, the ones
I think
who are, like,
I think I got
younger.
confused because like we started doing, you know, like back in the day, bourbon barrels were so big. And I always, as a brewer, recorded the date that it went into the barrel, but then we would put it on the label as the date that it came out. Like, wait, hold on, like what's right here, you know? So I think like as we got into the wine hybrids, we just got confused. I always speak of harvest year. If I'm speaking, usually it's like just like a winemaker when the wine or when the grape was picked.
What do people do for bourbon then? What do they do for like bourbon barrel aged stuff? Like, say if it's a stout or whatever, what would you put? Would you put the date it comes out? Like, say if that crosses over a year.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the maker. I would say, for me personally, I would say when I brewed the beer because your process starts when grain hits water.
That's a fair point.
I would put the brew date, I think, or when it went into barrel because to me that has more value than 2 years later
when
or
it
1 year later
ends.
or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of say like a series of beers that like, you know, they do the same beer and they repeat it but with different barrels.
Tempest,
or whatever.
maybe from Amsterdam. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know what I had something else that came to mind. I lost it, but like.
We also used to always write like the package date, so I guess like you know you could kind of go from there too. I'm not sure, but
yeah, even like Bourbon County, like the Goose Island shit. Like when I think that the one that came out, I just went and got the recent one from Brewed and Bottled in Lewiston in December when I got Nexus. I went over and grabbed that. No, I didn't. I got into Rochester and got it. And that was the 2023 edition, but it could have been sitting in barrels for a year or two beforehand, but they called it 2023. So I think it might be when it's released. The release year makes the most sense to me, I think
so.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, it's arbitrary.
No, that makes sense.
I think it's more just like, but then Judas CL with Pechet isn't always the release year, because I think that the last one I got, the bourbon barrel version, the regular one doesn't have that, but the bourbon barrel version, I think they might use the year it went in. Because they print like a bottle date on the label. Either way, I think you might be right. It depends on the maker. I think however anyone wants to do it.
I do like the release date. The release date makes sense, but for us it starts so much earlier, so I guess I confuse myself that way, you know, because I'm happy when the vintage starts in the beginning of harvest, but
yeah.
So I
love this beer.
Yeah.
Killer.
So you mentioned having one of every vintage in your basement. So how many years have you been making this one?
This one would be, I believe so. The fine line started as Either Way, which was a Saison, and we learned the wrong way, like I said. That was the first wine beer that we made, and then I think this was the year after. So it would be 6. This would be year 6, vintage 6 on this one.
Year 6. All right. I would say maybe once you get to year 7, then you're coming up on a pretty good vertical if you were to go to if you were to go through them.
Yeah, I just wonder about like process and everything from back in the day. You know, we've learned a lot, but this beer has always been bottle conditioned, and that can add some longevity too. But with the wine hybrids, we see like 1 to 2 years, like 2 years, 3 years, it starts to deteriorate over time just from different acids and competing things within the bottle. But still delicious, but you see the color fade. You see different things change over time that we might not have expected, but we still embrace, of course.
I guess that's part of the fun when it comes to a vertical. Like, you don't expect the earlier ones to hold up. It's almost like if the seventh year one, like the oldest one, holds up and you're like, yo, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a bonus so that the expectation is kind of lower. And it's more of an exercise of comparison as opposed to evaluation of that beer, because they're not necessarily always built for, you know, to be there for 10 years and shit. You know, sometimes maybe, but not all beers are, and, you know.
Well, let me one day let me go down there and see what I got inventory wise, and maybe we can do another episode if I haven't talked your ear off already. That we could do a full vertical on the podcast here, maybe.
That'd be fucking awesome.
Oh man, that would be dope.
I would love that. The first time we did one was like 2017. The first and last time we ever did a vertical on the pod with Nate. And I have a friend, Noah Forrest in Quebec, who's like one of the main beer writers out there. And he brought to my, I just sort of met him, and he brought a vertical, a partial vertical. He didn't bring it all because he said he had to drive later, of like a Due to CL. I think it was their Dark Saison, the one with the Japanese name. I always forget the name of it.
The like Ninkaso something, or
it's along those lines, but
yeah,
not exactly that, but something like that.
That's wild.
And it was cool because I was pretty young and hadn't experienced that before, and I think that I haven't really done like crazy verticals or anything since. So if you've got like 7 years of verticals, and maybe like we can, the one that you got brewing now, maybe we time it for when that's finished up. That would be killer. That'd be 8 verticals.
That's a good idea. Yeah, let me have a look. Let me have a look.
Iseki Nicho.
Iseki Nicho. That's the one.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a killer one. But yeah, it's like I think verticals are like a little underrated. Like, they're not, probably pre-COVID they're a little more common, but you know, bottle shares and all those fun things haven't been as common in the last few years. So it would be cool to kind of get back to doing something like that and just really exploring, particularly on a style like this, which is like, I don't know, arguably almost more variation. Like you said, different coloration. You've improved the process over 7 years, so you've got better at it, and you know, with different years of the quality of the grapes, you know, there's so many variables. Bottles versus cans.
We've learned just to like cram as many grape skins as we can into these things, and that's why our numbers are so high now. And you know, when we started, it was maybe like 4 buckets of skins. Now we're looking at, like, you know, like I said, almost 4,000 pounds sometimes. So
how many buckets?
Yeah, I'm fucking down. Let me fucking. I'm, you know, if you guys would be down for that, I'd love. Nathan, I could send you some bottles, and then if there's only 2, maybe we have to get together and do it, you know, that way. But yeah, I'd be proud to share that with you guys.
God,
for sure.
man, I would be so down for that.
That would be killer. Yeah. And once again, Nate is from Burlington, so he's from around the corner, and you know, he's down these ends here and there.
Okay, well, we could time it out. But so I'm pretty sure
my parents still live there. I go there very frequently.
So it's not impossible to make that happen. I think that could be really fun, and that's something that we don't really, you know, it's pretty. We could figure this out to do it in person. That's no problem. That'd be kind of cool.
No pressure either. No pressure. I'm just shooting.
No, I love the idea,
dude. Really like we're down. We're down.
Yeah, we're telling you right now, publicly we're down, because it would just be like a real fun thing, and it'd just be like an exploration of that. You know, of what that means for a particular beer, and like aging versus, you know, and then the style itself, and then fruit, which is a whole other variable that isn't always, you know, like the one I did was like just a dark saison, didn't have anything like that. So I feel like fruit brings a whole other element. Sick, bro. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, man, this shit is killer.
It's pretty, eh? It's a pretty beer. And
it is. It really is.
Everything going.
It goes down super smooth. Like, it's like, I feel like what we've learned tonight is that Merit make dangerously crushable high ABV products.
Oh, that's what I was gonna fucking say. That's what it was about Sam. So the one thing that him and the other like reputation we built for ourselves was hiding alcohol really well. Not like just drinking, but like fermenting alcohol really smoothly. And I know you guys have had Sawdust beers up and back and forth. So
Oh yeah.
they're
Princess
also
is
very
crazy.
sneaky. And when people knew that it wasn't just a Sawdust thing, it was like Sam and I, and they still crush fucking things like that. And as I moved on, I carried that with me. I couldn't tell you one way or the other why all these beers are so smooth, but yeah, we make fucking high octane stuff sometimes that drinks like a 4%er, and if you're tasting nail polish or anything like that, you're not making the right beer. You got to control everything, and this is a great example. So yeah, fucking 8% tastes like a 3%er sometimes.
Yeah,
for real, man. Like these last two, Fine Line and Happy Place, have been incredibly deceptive and
insane.
I couldn't agree more that like if you're tasting, like if you've got like an acetone kind of alcohol burn at the end, like something is missing there. I really dig it when alcohol is not like a prominent flavor that's that's coming through, and these are wild. Like I was
Literally.
saying, I would have pegged Fine Line at 4.5. I maybe would have pegged Happy Place at around 6 or something like that. Like this is bananas.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah,
it's
fun, right?
It's even cooler that you learned that in your time at Sawdust. Like Princess Wears Girl Pants. Their Saison was always like really smooth drinking, and like my favorite was always the Cthulhu Stout, 9.5% Stout with the raspberries and strawberries, I believe, and it's just fucking crazy. Uranus, you mentioned earlier, Long Dark Voyage, which is just such a phenomenal. That was one of the first bigger beers that, like, if you think about it, even back in the day, getting into beer, like that was those were some of the bigger earlier beers.
Like a ridiculous dry stout, and that's when the stout is really dry, that'll hide that, because you don't get the alcohol with the when you don't have the same sweetness.
Yeah.
So it really is deceptive in that one.
What a great skill set to impart on a brewer. I mean, that's like a legacy from Sam through you, that you got to sort of maybe like via osmosis from Niagara College through Sawdust and all in Black Oak and all of that experience, be able to put that into Merit now. And that's crazy, man. And it's such a cool thing, because you've been able to make something now like very unique, and it's not very common to have beers of this style, at the very least, drink like this. Like it's just not. You. And this is
appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And this is not even something I drink that often, these styles. This is what always is fun about the pods for both of us, is that sometimes you get caught up in the things that you just tend to like, and you just kind of stick to that a little bit more. And Nate and I both look forward to the pods to be able to sort of explore some stuff that maybe we don't always drink, and then you're like, oh man, why the fuck don't I drink this more? And it's it's super cool, and this is a phenomenal example of that. Like this is this shit is money.
Thank you.
I'm gonna save some of this to Tiff, because I feel like she'd be pissed at me if I didn't save all these the wine beers and stuff to share.
We're all guilty of that too. I find myself it's so easy to bring your own beers home, and when you try someone else's beers, it can blow your mind and open it up too. It's so fantastic to be a part of a community that's so willing to share and invite each other in most of the time to explain what your thought process was behind it. But I think that was one thing that I give so much credit to Sam and Danielle at Garrison for mostly like my sanitation and cleanliness, but
dope.
Sam really allowed me to be myself and really brew how I wanted to, and he was like open to that shit. There's early YouTube videos that are still available that you can see him like awkwardly being interviewed by Taps Magazine, which was also owned by Rob at Sawdust. But he was saying, he's like, yeah, I just fucking hired this guy, and he just I have to put my phone away by like 8 o'clock. He just keeps fucking texting me all these stupid ideas, and
that's what he told me.
Who I
did
was.
tell me that.
I've refined it down to this, I guess. Like I smoke weed to slow my brain down sometimes, and yeah, I don't know. I just
Only
loved
since
it.
it's been legal, though. That's the only time you smoked weed was since October 2018. You didn't touch it before then. Just want to
Yeah,
clarify.
no, I was just doing like minor crimes many times a day before that. So I was probably committing crime like 6 times a day before 2017. Also,
What's that thing called?
we were
The thing where they
we
can't
were
catch
out
you anymore.
in BC when weed
The
was
statute of
legalized.
limitations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
You're
were out
fine.
in BC when weed was legalized, October 17th, 2017
Eight,
or 2018.
I think it's
We were doing some
2018.
collabs with like Twin Sales and stuff, and
Gang.
I was like, oh my god, like today's the day that weed's going to be legal. And Tage doesn't smoke weed, and he's tried some CBD and stuff for sleeping and stuff, but he's never been a big weed smoker at all. And I love weed. Where I'm a habitual
It's the best.
user of it. I practice every day, and I really enjoy it. But and I'm not one to force it on anybody either. It's something that I enjoy and my partner enjoys. But yeah, we were out in BC, and I was like, Tage, I'm like, I know you're not really into this, but I kind of want to buy some weed and fly home with it. I read everything that WestJet and other companies have said, like it's legal, you can just fly with it, and there were so many gray zones that we weren't sure of, and I was like, I'm just gonna go, I'm doing it. So I bought a quarter out in Vancouver, and I flew home with weed in my pocket the very first day that it was legal in Canada, and it was no hassle whatsoever. And I got home and I called my friend Jen, who was
I know Jen.
the head brewer at DUCL at the time.
Yeah.
And she's now out of the industry, but still one of my best friends and family members. And I was like, Jen, I flew home with weed from BC. I think I'm like one of the first people in Canada to fly with weed. And she was like, I don't know, Spinney, pretty big country. Who knows?
Hey,
okay, fine. I'm one of the first 1,000 people in the air with weed in my pocket legally. And she's like, again, Spinney, like big country. It was legal in Newfoundland like 17 hours ago. And I was like, okay, fine. All right, Jen, fuck. I'm the first person in row 9.
Why
seat
you gotta
D.
spoil this for me?
Fucking
God damn
row
it,
9
Jen.
seat D, Jen. Fine, that's it. Like, so yeah, that's my legal weed story for when it happened. But
That's amazing. Weed's the best thing ever.
yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, like Sam let me do some good things, and we worked together on a lot of recipes, and I carried that over to Merit, and that's I think what I'm really proud of, hiding alcohol well and being a very clean brewery and brewer and making the best beers you can, and making shit up as you go. That's also something that Sam allowed and supported very much, was alternate fermentations, and that's I think why Merit does hot sauces, does a lot of other pickles and ferments in house, because why not fucking do it just to learn,
And that curry sauce, the dipping sauce for the fries.
Oh
Get
yeah,
the fuck out of town.
Right?
I want to talk
Curry
about
and
all
mayo?
of that. Oh, the curry mayo. Thank you. Sorry for clarifying. It is the best. I've told like a dozen people about it, which I probably shouldn't have. No, of course I should have, because you want to don't want to gatekeep the curry sauce. It's so fucking good.
No, this isn't Buffalo. Tell everyone to get here. We need people.
We're not border
We need
guards.
people.
Yeah.
Don't gatekeep Hamilton.
No, we don't
talk
gatekeep
about
Hamilton.
Buffalo.
We don't gatekeep anything, man. Don't talk about Buffalo ever. So, do you guys want to hit up the next beer? And I've got a bunch of stuff I definitely want to make sure we talk about tonight that I'd like to tap into next.
Yeah, let's do it.
How do we feel about Nowhere? I'm interested in Nowhere.
Yeah, they're both going to be big beers, so it's going to be
Either way.
picking one before the other, and that's the way it's going to be, I guess.
I'm here for it. This is it's 11.2. Oh fuck! All right, let's go.
Yeah, I know.
So
I told you. I
big.
warned you.
You went big with this pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spinny's gonna murder us tonight.
This is year 3. This is vintage 3. It was something that I didn't really want to do in the beginning, and then it won a gold medal in Canada the first year. I didn't even want to submit it, but everyone in the brewery was like, no, it's my favorite beer that we've made, and we've been making it ever since with different grape varietals. This year is Syrah, Malbec, and Merlot. The first year was called Nowhere Blau Frankish. It was a German grape that's been growing in Niagara for a little bit.
Nice.
And then last year was Dornfelder, kind
Cab
of similar
Franc,
to
and Cab
Dortmunder.
Sauv. I had that one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
that was
I got that whenever me and Nate when it was in the fall. You just released that, and the fucking like the color was insane. I'd never seen anything like that.
wasn't that fucked? So
Dude,
this
it was
starts
crazy.
like an Imperial Stout. This is an Imperial Stout.
Yes.
This is as dark as LDV from Sawdust. This is as dark as you can get from Merit Brewing. Nowhere. Nowhere itself is our Imperial Stout. We do variants all year or around like the winter season. This year we did 4, and this includes this one. Nowhere was a joke, and not a joke, a slap in the face, I guess, from a counselor up on the mountain. We've been battling in Hamilton for the LRT, a light rail transit.
I heard about this.
Here for commuters, and it's been an argument for almost like 15, 20 years now. The federal government said they would chip in like multi-million dollars to help Hamilton build this, and every time it just gets shut down because you have this rusty city that survived at some point, and they want to see everyone else survive, but they don't want to see change. So
Right.
this counselor up on the mountain, who's no longer in office, was like, why would you want a train that goes from nowhere to nowhere? Because the city's divided by an actual archaeological or a fucking physical thing like the escarpment, people feel like it's 2 different cities. So downtown, east, west, Stony Creek sees themselves as different than Upper Mountain, if you will. And even that just has like an upper echelon sound to it. But regardless, it's a geological difference, and people aren't willing to spend their taxes up there for people down here. And LRT has been a battle for a long time, and it still is. It's going to be built finally, thank goodness. But it's going to cause a lot of businesses to be disrupted. And this counselor said, again, why would you want a train that was built from nowhere to nowhere? And we were like, wait, we're actually downtown. We're nowhere. So we made this beer called Nowhere, and every year we tag that person in our release post and say thank you for naming this beer. Come by for a beer anytime you want if you want to come to Nowhere. So yeah, that's it. That's our Imperial Stout. This is about 1/4 of it, so 500 liters, aged on about roughly 3,500 pounds of grapes. So a very, very, very high ratio.
It's definitely like if you look at it, it looks like an Imperial Stout. As I was pouring it, it wasn't. It was lighter than the one from the fall, but from Thanksgiving, but not crazily so. And that was like 9%, I think, that one. This is 11.2.
Yeah. So it starts as a dark stout that you could put a flashlight to, and the light won't go through it. If you put a flashlight to it now, it'll be red, like I just did. And
well, even just even without a flashlight, just in my room with quite with quite a bit of warm light, it definitely has a reddish hue.
Yeah,
isn't that cool?
It's crazy. Yeah. So what's the vibe? So is it like 50-50? Like what's the blend?
So like I said, it's about 500 liters of beer put on about 35 to 4,000 pounds of grapes. So we have a square tote that we secondary age and ferment in with this beer, and we just stuff it as much as we can with grapes. So every year it kind of changes. It's not a scientific process because we just crunch in grapes. And then we fill it up as much as we can, which is usually about 500 liters, and we let it sit for 28 days. And if re-ferments, bringing it up, this started at 9%, and it brought it up to 11.2 for 28 days. And then, we rack it off. This is also can conditioned, and we're going to release this next week, I think. So this isn't out yet either.
Shit.
So
that's why it's so tapped.
This is a little sneak preview. I just was really excited to send it to you guys. It's kind of like port wine, maybe sherry. It's got a little age to it. It works really well with a shot of Amaro in it. Really nice, like just a nice sweet Amaro. It brings out this herbal note to it, and it's funky as fuck. And like I said, I didn't really want to do it. We tried it. We had extra grapes. We had stout that we didn't really know what to do with over COVID, and then we submitted it to the CBAs, and it won gold in the experimental category that year. So after that, I was like, "Fuck, okay, let's just keep doing it." And the first year, it still looked like stout. It was still like an imperial dark stout with like a purpley oil slick like foam to it.
Oh,
The second year, it came out like fucking red wine, and we are like, "Oh, what did we do? Like, what happened?" And then this year, it was like a hybrid balance of it. And then as it's aging now, it's becoming more and more red, which is also fascinating. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking cool. I think it's really neat.
yeah. It's
Very
now you
cool.
mention it. It's more like a chocolatey red wine.
Yeah, like
Like-
you get chocolate on the nose, but then you get
Yeah.
like a fortified wine port on the flavor, plum, really like figgy, like aged fruit. You know, like a nice plum jam, if you will.
Yeah, jammy is what I was getting for sure.
Weird, eh?
Yeah, it's hella weird, hella unique.
Yep.
I don't think I remember the last one. It was like when I saw it on Instagram, you did a wicked a wicked photo with like a pour shot. And the color was just the most insane thing. I'm like, I need that. So we were going down, Nate and I went to St. James to get some have a coffee. We were like, all right, let's go past Merit and pick up a bunch of beers. So we got Yes Coast. And then we both got that, which we were big because Nate and I are huge Westie fans. And
We're brewing that in a couple weeks. I'll send you guys some.
Oh, let's
Nice.
go. Love that. That shit was fire. I didn't pick it up. I don't know why. The strange animal that Nate said he got, and I remember I grabbed nowhere, and I was just, it was so fun to me, and it was the most interesting beer wine hybrid I think I'd ever had, as far as like it was 9% Imperial Stout, so it was pretty reasonable as far as the ABV, but fucking hell, man, like that. It was wine with a little bit of stout, and I feel like this isn't too dissimilar.
I
Yeah.
agree.
What was the wine from the one from fall compared to now? So just to confirm again, this is Syrah, Malbec, and Merlot from Fielding Winery.
Yes. The year before that was Dornfelder, Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, also from Fielding. And then the
Also
year
from
before
Fielding.
that was Dornfelder, just strictly Dornfelder, only like 400 pounds, maybe 600 pounds, from Rosewood Winery. And it
Dang.
was a new grape at that time.
Okay, it's. Is there anything
Well, yeah,
else like
Black
this?
Rock,
Okay, yeah. So that was the one I saw on there. Shouts to Will and Ryan as well, killing the game.
I don't know.
I never
I
had
think you
anything
can-
personally.
You can get this by like blending wine with beer.
Right.
Again, like I can only speak to my process. I know a lot of people do a lot of blending afterwards with a wine license. You can ferment wine in your same facility and then blend it as two different finished products. Everyone has their own way of doing it, but this is our way of doing it, and aging it on the skins to get that color, get those anthocyanins again, like I said before, to come out in a stout is kind of weird. And like the body of the stout disappears as well. There's not as much frothiness. It's not as like big, bold jowl, overcoming like flavor of chocolate and roast. Like that's all in there.
subtle.
I'll give you the recipe. Like you can look it up. It's the same stout that we have on tap right now with raspberry, vanilla.
Oh, I saw that
you
one.
know,
Yeah.
a
Do you can
hot
that
chocolate
too?
version of it, and we also did we do a regular version, a coffee version. Like we do different versions of it. And this is
Okay.
just an anomaly.
So this version, so basically the base, I guess, is what I'm saying. The base nowhere. What's the ABV on that bad boy?
Usually around 9%. We aim for 9%, and we've dialed it in to hit that every year for the last like 4 or 5 years for sure. We kind of enjoyed that. Before vintages celebrated through the wine hybrids, we let our seasonals kind of dictate like one-offs, because a brew pub, we could allow that to happen. But over time, as customers start to absorb your products as their own, or to like really enjoy it as a seasonal comfort. We want to make sure that it's consistent, and we've dialed in those alcohols definitely over the last like 5 years. With these beers, it's we do try and dial back the alcohol to start because we know we're going to be adding more later on. But as we add tonnage or grape amounts to our beers, we're finding it's going through the roof. Like this one was like, oof,
That
that's
makes
crazy.
sense.
Because last year I think it was maybe like 1%. Usually we see about a 2% increase. This was like almost a 3.5% increase from where we started. So
It's hefty, man.
it's changing the thoughts on that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's big. Like I said, like it's like an after dinner digestive, almost,
digestive.
Oh
Thank you.
yeah.
That's the one.
Oh yeah.
A little
Like you
port,
said,
a little
port, sherry. Yeah, I totally feel that. And I love that you got the base on it. I did see when I went to yesterday to just grab all the beers that on the board. I think it was with, what'd you say? It was with raspberry and chocolate?
Yeah, it was. We were mimicking one of the desserts on the menu. It was. We used to have a raspberry brownie,
Ooh,
and that's what we
okay.
did. It was cocoa. It's cocoa powder, vanilla, and raspberry puree.
Amazing. So, like, it's really cool that you got that base and you're able to do. And I bet if you put that beer side by side with this beer, which is still the same base, fucking worlds apart. As far as like,
fucking nuts!
which is crazy.
Nuts,
Within a series of beers, that's also relative, like arguably unheard of as far as like the differentiation between two beers in the same series being that level of different, which is kind of the point of it all, really. Like,
Yeah,
isn't
try
that
something different, right?
try something different, experience something completely different, even with the same brand, like under the same sort of like umbrella of variants. It's a cool approach, and I love that you've used that for both sides. From both, obviously there's a number of wine ones, and now this is the second one I've had, and now you're describing the last few years as well, plus like coffee. I saw there was one with Detour coffee in here. You had one called South of Nowhere as well, which was the bourbon soaked vanilla beans and a bunch of other shit, like a
that
Mexican.
one's one of my favorites as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Mexican. It's like a Mexican on drinking chocolate, essentially.
Love that. Nowhere Fast.
Yeah,
Which
that
was
was
another-
another coffee version with that garage, Steeltown Garage,
Up the street,
biker
another one.
cafe there.
Yep. Salted caramel, one with relay coffee, blueberry fritter, coconut bourbon, barrel aged, banoffee pie. Fuck, man.
Oh, banoffee pie. Yeah, that's fucking hot.
PB&J. Like, I mean, you've really like there's looks like there's probably about 20 to 30
Across
different
the board
variants
there.
here.
Yeah.
Dessert stouts that are balanced. You know, you don't want too sweet, but you want someone to drink two of them if it's good enough, kind of thing. But
It's cool. I really appreciate this level of I don't know, just
Creativity.
like creativity and differentiation within like a brand, I guess.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
could be one
To kind
thing.
of like really kind of like take it to its limits and just kind of everything that you can really combine with that kind of flavor profile. Like there's not really any limit to it. Like that's the beautiful thing about stout, right? Like there's so much that goes with it and so much that you can pair with it. And so like why not make a beer out of that?
100%.
totally. I find now like I'm getting to a point where I'm repeating certain flavors, and I'm like, how many times can you add cinnamon to something? Like we were trying to think of chocolate bar flavors this year just for fun, and we deduced it down to chocolate bars are texture based. Most chocolate bars are
That's a good point.
3 to 4 ingredients, whether it's nougat or peanut, or caramel. And the way you layer it is the way you enjoy it, but you have to drink beer. So if you want to make an O. Henry bar and a Snickers bar, it's going to taste the same if it turns into liquid. So it was really something that we're like, okay, we spent probably like 4 weeks dreaming of chocolate bar flavors and bringing in chocolate bars and eating them and like, pushing our diabetic limits. And eventually we were like, okay, so it all tastes the same. It all tastes the same if you drank it, right? Like if you drank an O. Henry bar, it would taste like a Mr. Big. Like, yeah, you're kind of right. So we've gotten to a point where we don't think we want to keep pushing those boundaries because like a cinnamon roll tastes like a donut sometimes, if you drank it. So we want to start to really fine tune the beers that we've made and go back to what we've done in the past and just perfect those like fun flavors like that for sure.
No, that makes complete sense. And other fun flavors that you guys have perfected, which is a great little segue. One of the things that I think is extra cool about Merit is the food that you guys offer. Like you've got like a little what's the word? When you own, I don't know why I'm having a fucking brain fast with basic ass words. A monopoly.
These high alcohol beers.
How I could put beers, yeah. I'm trying to like balance it out a little bit and save some for after and drink them slow and share them with Tiff. But the bit of a monopoly on the sausage game in Hamilton. I mean, your artisanal sausages are spectacular, and I feel like one of the things you do best is represent different cuisines across the board that also mesh perfectly well with the beers. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, being that I know you've mentioned tonight that you have like that sort of cooking background and sort of passion from your side. How did that sort of the food side of Merit come about?
Yeah, I think we like to travel. We like to have beercations and go enjoy other people's hard work, and especially from an American model, they have food menus that are very defined, but people are proud of what they make, and whether it was a brewery with sandwiches or pizzas and whatever, we wanted to make sure that we were unique, but also very proud of like what we made, but also the things we made. We didn't want to be like have too many things on our menu because we wanted the beer to be the focus, but we wanted something to be a beer balanced menu that would foods that go well with beer, salty things, just say it out loud, salt, you want to have another sip, so French fries, pickles, beer, like sausages. But we didn't want to be a German beer hall, but we wanted to have that American feel to it. And we get deemed a German beer hall quite often, but it's just mostly the sausages. But to us as well, originally a sausage was kind of like stifling because when you think sausage, you think, I don't know, bratwurst or English banger or Italian mild or hot, maybe a Hungarian if you're explorative. But for us, it was just a vessel to serve flavors in. So with Tej having an Indian background, he really wanted a butter chicken from being an East Coaster, kind of wanting deep fried pepperoni and donair flavors, kind of just winging it and having the sausage be a vessel for flavor, not just something that holds you back. And that's where our other partner, Jesse Valens, he's a wonderful chef in Toronto. He's the head chef at Barbarian Steakhouse. He's the sixth chef in history or sixth head chef at Barbarian history since like 1958 or something like that. Phenomenal chef. He used to work at a wonderful restaurant on Ossington, and then he ran Maple Leaf Tavern on the east end of Toronto for a long time. Exquisite, wonderful chef. Like, couldn't say more better things about that guy. Awesome. He won many, many years of sausage competitions, and that's when we approached him. We're like, "Hey, we want to hang out." Because we were like, "Want to hang out?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's do some stuff." And he makes like Reuben sausages, and like, oh man, this stuff's insane. So that's kind of where we started with it, and he started to create these sausage recipes for us, and our chef now has really ran with it, and all the other chefs that work there have a say in things, and we do seasonal stuff and run with it. So
man, this is making me hungry.
I know, Sam, I'm like, fuck. Get on Uber Eats right now and order some Merit.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep going.
I know. And yeah, our fries are beef tallow fries. We have vegetarian fries, of course. Like, as a sausage house, we also are celebrated as a vegetarian option in Hamilton. We do a cauliflower bhaji sausage. We used to do a falafel sausage dressed as a Chicago dog. We just do fun stuff. We've done a few pizza collabs with local pizzerias where we use their slices as buns. Just fun
Sick.
things like that, and we have a good opportunity to do that. And our menu is simple, but it is extensive at the same time. We have a lot of options that in sausage format, really. So
It's
one hand with one
bless
hand
you.
beer, one hand sausage. That's the idea.
It's money. Like I feel like you can't go to Merit and not get a goddamn sausage because it's just the best of the fries with the curry mayo. It's just god tier. The
Yeah.
other thing that I really feel like you guys really personify more than any brewery that I have been to, at least in Canada, is diversity in the patronage of the brewery as well as the staff, and that is something that obviously here at BAOS, we obviously co-founded Link Up, and it's something that is important, I think, both because it's kind of weird to not have everybody in the community at a space in that you go into, but also if you really want to drill down to it, like economically, the bottom line, if it's just white dudes with beards, then this thing is going to wrap up at some point. When I say this thing, I mean craft beer. So you guys always were like a place where obviously I'm always just like you. I know your partner Sav and Tiff would go to a brewery and would feel like the only one, would walk in and maybe feel a little self-conscious. Obviously maybe after the 700th brewery they've been to, they're probably a little more used to it, but doesn't make it any more okay. I don't know if you want to speak to, I know we kind of touched on this on the Link Up episode, if anyone heard that, but that was a little while ago. Yeah, if you want to sort of speak to the approach that you guys have, obviously, your partner Tej is of Indian descent, which is automatically bringing that in. You got Alex of Jamaican descent, who's one of the main brewers with you. If you want to speak to sort of your approach to that and that sort of, like, it's I was about to say intentional, but I don't think it is. I think it's just in the DNA of the company. You just say, hey man, there's all these different people around and all these different cultures need to be represented, and you have these fun beers. You got Shannon which is the is it a wit, I'm sorry, or is it a
It's like a white IPA wit, dry hop wit. It used
dry
to be
wit
called, and now it's white IPA.
white IPA with Indian spices, and you've had a bunch of different beers that Alex have made inspired by Jamaican desserts and stuff. But yeah, just speak to that stuff in general, man, and just how that came about and how it sort of affects the business.
Yeah, it's something that can never be forced and shouldn't be forced.
I agree with that.
It's hard to run the lines of it, I guess. Like in an industry, like you said, that's kind of fully encompassed by white dudes with beards, and being a white dude with a beard is standing here, you can only be an ally if you really like speak your mind and learn. You can read things and then go about your day, but like it's really putting into practice and preaching everything that stands for everybody. I think there's a lot of barriers to entry in every industry for a lot of BIPOC people, but in the brewing industry especially, from marketing and down, it's very, very hard for a lot of people to enter the industry, and all I can do is be a cheerleader and someone who wants to be inviting into our space, and as a community space, that's all you can really ask for. And you can't force it. You can really look for those people if that's what you're after, but a good fit's a good fit, and that's the way it works, and you can't really force it. If no one's applying, then you need to look deeper. Why aren't people applying to those jobs? How do you encourage everyone to want to be a part of something fun? And once you're in it, there's a lot of negativity in the brewing industry too. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. Like, it's a very whitewashed industry, and it's trash. Like, it's very hard for anyone to survive, let alone someone that's marginalized. And you also can't over celebrate or push those people into positions that look really forced and maybe that's the only person being photographed. That's not okay either. You know, you really have to make someone feel welcome and heard, and you have to hear those people. And everyone has a story, you know, and I think that's all you have to do is treat people like people and love everyone for who they are. And if they're not a good fit, that's okay too, you know. But everyone should have an equal chance, and it's just bullshit that we have to deal with any of that. But you see those people that have worked hard and earned those positions have to work harder than the regular old white fucking asshole. But you know, as a white dude who's worked his butt off, like, you know, I'm not saying it's any easier for anyone, but like, I don't know, it's something that you need to just practice and learn and make yourself vulnerable to everyone's story and grow from there, I think. And I don't know, maybe I'm just beating around the bush and saying the same thing over and over again in different words, but
well, I know what you're saying.
I don't know what else to say. Like, it's a hard thing. I know you guys.
It's tough to talk about
That a lot, and it's very hard to force it. And that's all you just can't force it. That's
I agree with that.
The
for
all
sure.
and all story of everything.
I can say we probably all agree on that like you have to sort of want to do it. But one thing that we, you know, Tiff and I did a little thing at the OCB last October, and we got to meet Sav, your partner, for the first time there, which was super cool. She came through. She's a fucking G, which we hadn't met. We talked to her a million times, but never actually met until then. But one of the things, we use you guys as a phenomenal example of what to do, because it's like, all things aside, like if Tiffany of Jamaican origin has come into a brewery and most people do not look like her, and then she goes and sees a beer on this is her example that she often gives. It was that when we went there, when we decide that, like, I think we put the offer in on the house here, and then we got accepted. We came for one more visit just to see the house again, to measure some stuff. And what we did, and I think we told you this in person, but what we did when we were in Montreal, we were like, every single place that we saw, we went to Google Maps and we checked how far it was from Merit. That was like our North Star, to be like, what are the neighborhoods? How fucking far is it from Merit? Oh, it's more than 10 minutes? Too far. And that was sort of how we measured our life. So when we went there that time, and on the menu was a beer called Medea, which was a stout with coconut and something. It was basically based off a Jamaican dessert, right?
Kettle sour, that was a grater cake. So ginger, simple syrup with coconut flake.
There we go. I knew it was coconut something. I couldn't remember if it was a stout or sour. There you go. And, you know, and then obviously the jerk chicken, sausages and stuff like that, and like the Korean ones that I've had before, and the butter chicken, all the things. And it was just like, she's just like, this is like, it feels like she felt seen. And she felt like, yo, this is for me. And I know that was particularly because Alex's Jamaican background, so like that worked. But like that for her, exactly. And she's been to more breweries than the vast majority of people, because I've dragged her to them all. And she had she would just be used to just sitting there and just seeing a bunch of white dudes with beards. Once again, that's not necessarily like a problem, but it is economically, and if you really want to look at it, depends how you sort of feel about the social thing. I just feel like if the inside of a place doesn't really reflect the outside world, it kind of feels a little odd. That's all. Particularly Hamilton's a very multicultural city. Toronto's very multicultural. Ottawa's very multicultural. So it's like, if you go to a brewery and everyone's not there, it just means that there's people who don't know what sort of fire is inside here. And like, the products can go with there isn't a single beer available that doesn't go with any food on the planet. Like, I really feel like that's what's up. So Merit for us was always a very special place, because Tiff always was like, and me too. And like, aside from the German brew, you know, that vibe is cool, and then you could be sitting on the same bench as somebody, and you could get in a cool conversation, and you're having this great food, and then there's always like a great variety of beers. We went there recently. We met up with Ren Navarro and her partner Becca, and Ren had a big night the night before, so she was drinking kombucha, so she got super lit off tequila or something, so she had the kombucha, and then Becca was drinking wine, and then I got to have some beer, and Tiff was drinking wine. So it was like, anything you need is there, and I'm looking around and I'm just like, yo, there's a table of all these black girls here and they look like they're about to go out, and there's a table of these like people who are like boomers over there, and there's like, I was like, this is fucking crazy because we're just not used to
you don't see that. You don't see that.
And the only place in Canada regularly that we've seen that is at Merit, and particularly in, you know, the third biggest city in Ontario, which is Hamilton, this beautiful, beautiful city that we're in. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, I can't give you enough props. And I know you're sort of like talking around it or whatever. You don't really have to even comment too much. But like, I just think it's really important that an establishment like Merit exists, because it gives people that element of feeling seen. And I feel like also there's a big location bonus, because I know there was near the First Ontario Centre, so if there's a like Toronto Rock game or a concert, then people are going to go to Merit because it's a vibe and you can have some great food and you've got a bunch of choices. So there's that too. So that attracts more people, and then that therefore exposes more people to being used to being in a brewery and to seeing, you know, and then blah blah blah, and that pushes everything forward. So I just really think everything you're doing is important, is all really the long way of saying
Thank you. And all I can say is I'm learning just like anybody else, and you know, you got to put the time in, and I could put more time in just like anybody else as well. And everyone makes mistakes. You know, what you see online isn't always perfect, and we all know that. But you learn from those mistakes as well, and or those situations that may have come up, and it's a lot of hard learning. That's all I can say is, you know, it's going to be forever, just like learning how to be a manager or anything else like that. It's going to be a lifetime of growing, and don't always expect everyone else to teach you. You have to put the time in, and that's all I can say.
I think that's a pretty key thing.
Yeah.
That's a pretty key thing. There is don't expect other people to teach you. That's something that I feel like that's a pretty key takeaway. Like for us as white dudes of the past 4 years, is that like you've got to put in the work and not expect people to teach you.
No,
for sure.
No, exactly, and just treat everyone equally and love everyone as much as you can, and hope that everyone does a great job with you, and you can put your best foot forward. But it's a process, you know, and it's all new to everyone, and you have to be kind to yourself, but you have to be kind to everyone else. And it sucks. It's just like therapy or anything like that. You know, you gotta put the time in, and it might not be the best fit to begin with, but keep trying if it's hard, you know, because that means if you don't feel comfortable, that you're growing.
That's a great point. Nobody grows through comfort. No, it's really cool, man. I just feel like everything you guys are doing is just, very, very cool and important in the city, and it's super dope from the interesting styles that you're doing to the actual experience in the brew pub, and you know, it's beautiful what you're doing, and even today, by the way, look, Tiff just texted me, the Merit is delish.
Wow, sick.
Because I left that upstairs.
There you go.
Yeah, I knew she'd like it. She did tell me, make sure you say hi to Spinney, so I want to make sure I say that on there as well. She did not say hi to Nate, though. She said hi to Spinney. Wow. Can you believe that?
That's rude. That's rude.
Tell her we say hi too. Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you. I'll say hi.
Now. Tell her we say hi.
Tell her to say hi, and you know what? I'm gonna say hi from Tiff to you, Nate, even if she didn't say it. I'm gonna say that.
Okay, well, I don't say hi to Tiff. Don't say hi to Tiff for me.
I love it. What were we just fucking saying, bro? These high ABV beers, Jesus Christ, Spinney, kill me.
Oh my god, no, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize at all.
We got one more. You want to?
Yeah, let's bust that one more. Let's run it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right.
I
know. I'm sorry. I know.
Don't apologize. Oh, sorry for giving you fire beer. Fuck.
Oh, well.
Jeez, you should be sorry. All right, what do we got?
This is number 6, I think.
Number 6, and this is 10.7.
Oh yeah, no problem.
10.1.
Easy.
Yeah, whatever.
It's easier than the last one.
By and by.
By and by, yeah.
Oof, what a cool can! Look, it's a beautiful can.
This one's also been one of my favorites. It's one of my Christmas drinkers. Usually we try and package it before, even if it doesn't have a label. I'm taking a case home kind of thing. Easy drinking for what it is. This starts as a Belgian triple. In my eyes, triples have different definitions, but historically it would be high alcohol, usually 9%, or between 7 and 9%. And there's one of my favorite beers in the world is Triple Carmelite from Belgium. They also say that they believe a triple has oats, wheat, and barley. So those are the three ingredients as well. Yeah, it's a banger. We brew this beer as a fall harvest homage as well, and then we brew a spring seasonal called Tomorrow's Triple, which is the exact same recipe but with just Earl Grey tea instead. We brew that. It's fermenting right now. It's going to come out on the first day of spring, and that's kind of the thing. First day of fall, first day of spring. Tomorrow's is something I brewed for my mom. She doesn't really like beer, but she loves Earl Grey. I always grew up with like an Earl Grey pot of tea after dinner when I was a kid, and I thought maybe try and blend the lines of beer and tea for my mom, and she still doesn't really care about it, but I still like making it for her. And this is the fall version of that. So this is the harvest version of a Belgian triple for us. This one usually is Pinot Noir, but this is Pinot Noir, Gamay, and Dornfelder. So the winemakers just kept adding more grapes into their press. After it's pressed, they don't really care, so they can add the next grape. And by the time he gave me the call, he's like, "Yeah, I already mixed them all." So we didn't really have a choice this year. So you get a little bit more depth, more dark fruit, maybe some more fig and plum. But it's really, really beautiful, and it's also been a really provocative award winner for us as well. We love it. It's one of our fan favorites as well, and when it comes out every year, we all kind of have a few weeks of drinking too much of it for sure.
That the old 10.1, just knocking it back. This is cool. I'd never seen a triple that looks like a glass of Shiraz at all. That is insane.
Yeah, right. So like
the nose,
compared to
God.
Right, so like this is like fieldberry, strawberry, raspberry, more bright fruit, more bright berry compared to the last like port sherry quality that we had from the Nowhere. I love this beer so much. This is, like I said, fine line, happy place. Those are my, top three. By and By is always up there on number one for me.
Yeah.
I really, really love this beer.
It like I haven't had a triple, admittedly, in a bit of a while, and this. So the base is a triple. Like I feel like does it come through? Maybe I only had a couple sips, so I'm sure it'll come through over time. But like, does it shine through the grapes? Like, how does the triple come out through the grapes here?
We've received mixed reviews from judging and just friends drinking it. Like the esters kind of get stifled by the fruit themselves, but we still believe that without those fermentation esters and polyphenols that you would get from like a French Saison, that clovey isobutyr or isoamyl acetate kind of banana quality, some other like spicy notes to it. If those weren't there to begin with, then this beer wouldn't be what it is. But the grape itself does overcome, but I find it just balances really nicely.
Yeah, it's okay. That makes sense.
If you don't mind, have some sips. I'll be right back. If you don't mind, it's gonna run to the water.
Do your thing, man.
I actually got to pee as well, but do you need to pee?
I don't, but I could. Why don't we just do a quick pause?
Why don't we just quick pee and then we'll come back and we can bring it on home. We won't be long.
Let's do it.
Cheers. Oh, and
we're back.
And we are back. Nate, how many empty bladders do we have? I remember.
At least three. At least
three. Great joke, bro. Great joke. All right. Nice one. Dude, this is I don't remember exactly where we were, but the tasty notes on the can are super dope. Grape jelly is such an apt tasty note for this one.
That's on point.
Yeah, a couple
in
years
the best
ago
possible way.
We did a video advertisement of it. I was pretending to be the Welch's grape drink girl from back in the '90s, and I was like, "Drink it. It's juice. It's just fucking juice." And that's what this is. It's just juice. It's there's no co-ferments. It's just aged on the skins, and that's where the flavor and the color come from. And oh man, I love this so much. It's so good.
There is no chance in any world that I would have guessed that the base is a triple for this beer. This is a wine beer that is nondescript. Like,
yeah, it really blends the wine quality, eh?
Yeah.
I think the lesson tonight is be careful with Merit short cans because read
the label.
Read the label very carefully.
And I will say one thing wanted to mention a couple beers ago was all these wine hybrids. I'm sure you've noticed the foam collapses really quickly.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
We've been docked marks on that because beer should have foam, but because of the acidity of these products coming from the wine and the grapes themselves, it collapses the protein matrix of the foam, and it leaves like a really effervescent champagne-like quality, and that's what we're trying to bring across. And people are like, "Ooh, there's no foam, like that's kind of gross." And we're like, no, it's the acidity of the wine that's collapsing that, and we celebrate that. And when we submit it, if we do submit it to awards, which we do have a hard time because there's no category for these beers, we make sure that we state that the foam does collapse because of these reasons, and we are aware of it. And there's nothing you can really do. You can try and spend a lot of money on foam stability, but there's no reason to, because that's not the point of this beer. The effervescence of the carbonation really brings the aromas to the nose, not the foam itself.
That's a great point. The effervescence of that is a word I think I've used in just the tasting notes for all of these beers, like all of these the wine hybrid beers tonight, which is kind of like the last four. That regardless of the foam holding, it's that is like one of the key factors in the beer.
I think that's so key to the mouthfeel of these beers.
And that's why they taste so low ABV when it's fucking 11 point something and the effervescence is crazy. Or this is 10.1 and it tastes like 6.
I feel like if it didn't have that effervescence, there would be something detracting from this. Like it would start, like you'd start to feel like a bit more like thickness to it, and like it would start to feel more sweet. You'd start to taste the alcohol a bit more, and it would start to sit a bit heavier on the palate, and like it would really detract from it. So I feel like you've made the right prioritization of of quality there.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, we find we've definitely done it. Like as we transition from bottles to cans, it's a lot of work, not just learning how to package, but to create the right product for the package as well. And last year, it was our first year into our canning line at Merit, and like I said, I had a lot of experience with it, but we package out of our walk-in cooler, which is a little bit warmer than what we need to do, especially for these high carbonated beers. So that's why we can condition them flat and let the carbonation happen within the package itself. We've done beers last year's Nowhere, for example, was carbonated in the tank, forced carb, and then packaged at a lower carbonation, and it came out kind of flabby. It kind of came out boring and a little bit heavier, like a herbal aperitif or digestif, where it was like thick and it sat on your tongue. And we did get comments on that, and we took that to heart. And not only is packaging beer flat a little bit more efficient, but you have the ability to reabsorb oxygen and create a longer shelf life on these products, which if we're trying to mimic wine, that is exactly what should happen as well. So for all the foam that doesn't exist, we take all that into account, and we have a good explanation as to why that happens. And we're kind of proud of it as well, because of the higher carbonation, like a champagne or like a nice bright saison, really.
Yeah. That's what it is. Like, there's no way that anything we've had tonight feels more than like 6 at most.
Nah.
And that's kind of part of the beauty of it. I agree with you. The foam is like cool, but like even on a lager, they kind of drop. Like it's eventually,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
And I noticed that with with fine line with the orange wine lager, it definitely drops a lot more than you would expect a lager to. But like ultimately, that's an aesthetic thing. You
I
know,
agree with
looks
that.
good, looks good in a photo, but but ultimately, if you're prioritizing the flavor and mouthfeel and really overall taste experience more, I feel like that's more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll explain that until we're blue in the face because we taste the product and we're really proud of it and happy with it. So I think when you try it, it makes sense. But if you're looking for that foam, we have those beers as well that
Oh yeah.
exist. But we
Well,
these
yeah.
are
I
different
mean,
different
I
lines for
mean,
sure.
just look at 107. That's had some fucking banging foam on
Legs.
it.
Yeah, that shit was
Yeah, yeah.
slapping. Evernice, killer. The haze, killer.
Yeah.
So it's it's comes with the style. I almost feel like there's an expectation of wine beers to not really have that much of a head, being that wine obviously is not carbonated, and if you're going to mix the two, the non-carbonated, like the result is probably going to be not much of a head, and it's like we're all saying, it doesn't detract from the experience or the drinkability. It's actually like kind of what you said, Spinney, was like it promotes
It's
the
actually
drinkability,
it actually enhances it.
enhances
Yeah.
it truly.
I know I'm not going to get foam on my mustache, so I'm going to have another sip quickly. But I think as well, yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. I don't know. It's good. It's just good. But we want to lean into that, and we're proud of it, and we'll explain why it happens. But it doesn't detract from the beer at all, like you said.
No,
I think
I
it's
don't think
wonderful.
so. I
it's
don't
a
think
beauty.
so.
So to bring this bad boy on home, like this has got to be one of the biggest podcasts we've ever done as far as like this many large beers. I don't
I think
recall.
so.
This is pretty impeccable, and
Oh, I'm sorry. We got to all work in the morning. I
no,
really
it's
have.
I don't have to do shit. I sleep.
Okay, well, I can hang out till like 4 in the morning if you guys want, but I don't
That's-
really want to do that. But
well,
I've
what
got,
I
I've,
wanted.
I like hanging out with you guys.
I've got a not quite 2-year-old who's going to be waking me up like between 6 and 7. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll be at work
No,
by 7. So
not the funnest. But with all of that said, we're recording this in early March, and on May 11th, by the time this gets released, I believe it'd be sometime in April. So May 11th is your 7th anniversary, as you mentioned earlier, Spinny. I mean, I know probably by the time this comes out, you might not have teased any of the anniversary beers or events. But is there anything at this point that you can say that you'd like people to hear about a month or so, 4 or 5 weeks out?
oh yeah, fuck. We've got a lot of beers coming up, and as a brew pub, we try to release 1 to 2 beers every week, depending on how everything else is selling.
Hell
We've
yeah.
got some really cool seasonals coming up in spring. It's a really big season for us in releases. But then, yeah, we have our anniversary. In the past, we've inundated and overwhelmed ourselves with too many releases, whether it was 5 or 6 in the last couple of years. And it kind of just turned into more work for no reason. And, then all of a sudden you're stuck with a pig and a python with you release so many beers in a short amount of time that it kind of stifles your production later on because you have so many products for sale already.
Right.
So we've dumbed it or dialed it back this year with one of our last hybrids that I sent you both in the 750 ml bottle. That is one of our only Brett beers that we make nowadays. It's our wine hybrid that we got from Escarpment Yeast. Yeah, Wild Years. I love this. This is one of my favorite beers. I say that about every beer now.
Yeah.
I
You
feel
have
like an
said it for
idiot
every
saying
reason.
that every
I
time,
respect
but
it.
I swear to God, I love them all. I love them all. They're beautiful, and we like I tell everyone that's ever worked at Merit and ever will work at Merit, and anyone that wants to hang out with me is, we put the time into every single batch because we can and we're allowed to, and every day we do something to a beer. We always have 10 to 15 projects on the go, let alone things aging in the cellar or in the warehouse. And when we put our efforts forward, we really try our hardest and want to make every beer special, and that's what we're really proud of here. And Wild Years itself comes from Escarpment Yeast Labs down the road in Guelph. It
Dope.
was a yeast harvested in Ontario that has Saison esters. It works really well with a Brett B or Brett D strain. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but very, very beautiful. And what we do is we make a Saison, ferment it with this local Saison strain. Once it's done fermenting, or as it's fermenting, we add muscat juice. Muscat's usually a blending wine, white wine grape that goes into ice wines or heavier, viscous flavors. Uh, so it can hold up against all these other flavors in the Brett Saison. As it's fermenting, we then transfer it onto a certain amount of peaches. As the peaches ferment, we add the Brett. So it goes into a secondary fermentation. Once that's done, we then put it onto the muscat grapes afterwards. So it goes into 3 fermentations. It's our longest beer out of all these wine hybrids. And it really, really captures, in my opinion, the growing season of the peaches and the muscat. Like, it is like freezing a season. And if you drink that, whenever you drink it, whether it's now, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 years from now, I've got some in my basement that tastes exactly the same as it did 2 years ago. And peach and strawberry are probably some of the hardest fruit flavors you can capture in beer. They just disappear as soon as you add them. And peach is really, really hard on top of, opposed to strawberries. But peach is really, really hard to capture and hold on to. And this beer really does a great job of it. We used to use nectarines, and we found peaches to be a little bit more bright and bold. And yeah, we're really proud of that one. So that's going to come out for our anniversary. We've got our anniversary lager that we just brewed today with all other 8 breweries in Hamilton. So there's 9 of us now in Hamilton, including Old Fast Cidery that has their brewing license. And it was so lovely to hang out with everyone. I've been planning it for weeks, and you can worry about every brewer in the fucking room wanting to add into it, but they just wanted to show up and hang out, and that was the best part of it. And
That's
John and I rocked the brew today. Everything went off without a hitch, and we made a really nice Pilsner, really traditional style. That's going to come out for our anniversary, and that's about it. Hopefully a new fresh batch of our flagship Young Rival IPA, and maybe our West Coast IPA as well. And then 2-3 weeks after that, we got the CBAs here in Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
For us, that's exciting. I don't know, Hamilton to someone that lives in Vancouver or Cape Breton might not be as exciting, but we're really stoked on having the national awards here in conference in our city. So we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna get pretty unsober and have a good time. But we've already started working on our menu for what's going to be pouring at that time. But luckily for us, 2 weeks before that's our anniversary, so we're gonna have some fucking bangers coming out. So yeah, the more everyone drinks, the more we're gonna make. So we're just gonna have some fun.
Nice.
That's awesome, man.
I love that.
Yeah, man. So there's a bunch happening. So by the time this drops in April, basically we got a month, and then it's about to be on and popping here in Hamilton. Spinney, dude, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much. This is once again long time coming, and I think we did it up proper. I think we did some justice tonight, boys.
This is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me fucking chat your ear off. I'm sure it was annoying at times, but
oh my goodness, no.
This is literally what the point of this thing is. Fortunately, if you're a yapper, well, we got ears,
as much as
makes our job easy.
Yeah, it does.
I appreciate that. Yeah, like as much as makers are celebrated and glorified, we look at everyone else, and you guys have always been a beacon and a light in the industry, and I'm very proud to have met you guys, have chatted with you guys, and continue being friends with you boys. Like I'm really, really proud of what you guys are doing, and I'm really happy that you would invite me onto this program at well over 167 or whatever you said. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. I think we're at more like closer to 400 because we had an
400.
old
Okay,
series. We had an
Yeah,
old
I was gonna
series
say,
and the thing in the
good.
middle, and then this. It's a
I was
longer
gonna say,
story.
so
Yeah, it's been a while.
love
9
it. I
years.
love it.
9
Like,
years.
man, melts my heart, honestly. Like, as like I said, like, I'm without you boys or without anyone else, like, we'd be nothing. And just happy to keep doing what we're doing, and we just work hard. We're glorified plumbers and janitors, like I said before. And I'm a dirty boy. I don't fucking it's gonna work. It's gonna work, But I'm very proud of what I do, and I love making. And sometimes when you're working every day, all day, you forget about the artwork of it and the creativiness of it. And when you guys get to dissect and talk about what we do and what I've created, and I don't know, that means a lot. And I don't know, I'm a heart on my sleeve kind of guy, but I truly appreciate that. I really thank you for carrying the industry and helping push it forward in a good way. And I wouldn't be a part of this if I didn't believe you guys are doing a really, really good thing. So I thank you very much for having me on your show, and I'll chat with you guys anytime. Like, it's not about this, or it's not about recording anything. You guys ever want to talk? You guys need anything? I got you.
You're the best, bro. And we feel the same way, man. Like, thank you so much. That's very, very kind words. I mean, obviously, this is labor of love for us. We're just trying to support an industry that we believe in and people that we believe in, and share the stories that we think that people need to hear. Craft beer is such a beautiful industry, and there's so many wonderful people like yourself that are, giving up everything to do it. I mean, you've gone and secured this beautiful location 7 years running, which is an incredible feat, particularly over the last 4 years alone have been some of the most difficult in our lifetimes to run a business, particularly given all the challenges. And you've not only survived but thrived, and it's and it makes me proud to come to a city that like, I'm gonna be honest, like, you're one of the biggest reasons that we want that. Like, to me, when I go anywhere, beer is the only thing that I give a shit about. And when I'm looking at, like, I'm not joking, every single place we looked at, we mapped to Merit. So it's
It melts my heart, man. That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
It's for real. Like, I don't know if I told you that when we were in Purpose, but when we hung out last year, but it was like for real. Like, it's so cool, bro. Like, I just think what you're doing is awesome. You're doing some really fun, interesting things that are really unique to you, and also you got stuff that appeals to kind of everyone, from the crispies and the haze and all the good, stouts and good stuff, and then the really fun wine hybrids and all the different stuff that you're doing. The brew pub experience is phenomenal. So just congrats to you and Tage and the whole team out there, and just please keep fucking doing what you're doing. And
Absolutely.
it's a net positive for sure what you're doing as well, for the diversity side of things, and just really making people feel welcome. And every time I come in there, I've been there many times. I've only seen you there one time or two times yesterday, but like, every time we go in, I don't always text you when we're there. It's night. I know you're only there during the day, and I'm like,
fucking text me, dude. I'm 2 minutes down the road.
You are down the road. I should, but I don't want to bust your balls in there. I'm like, yo, like this. It's just exemplifies what I want to personally see in craft beer, and I whether it's intentional or whether it just happened, whatever it is, it's I think you guys are shining.
It's a model for the scene, for sure.
Yeah, and we are proud of you for that, and you and your whole team, and just please keep that up, because it's like, I think it's more important than even that that it is. And I think in a bunch of years' time, we're gonna look back and you just be like, yo, like that. What you're doing sort of led the way into what had to be the future. If craft beer has a future, this is it has to be. There's no other way.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm down. I got tissues. I'll Uber Eats it to you.
Hey, like I said, goes right back. We promise to keep learning and keep growing, and we don't want to take over the world, but we're going to do our best, and we hope that we don't want to be a leader in any sense, but we just want to be the best that we can be for ourselves and for our friends and everyone that works for us. We owe everything to, and we're going to keep learning as we grow. So I truly appreciate that sentiment, and Yeah, thank you, boys. I really appreciate that.
Oh, we fucking love you, man.
Yeah, we really do. It's an honor and a pleasure, brother. Stick around. We'll wrap up off air. But Spinney, where can everyone find Merit in person and online?
Yeah, so you can find us at meritbrewing.ca, I believe, if not .com, but I'm pretty sure, we're in Canada.
I'll double
so
check
that's
while
the
you're
thing.
talking. Yeah.
And you can order online right at our website. We go through Shopify and we go through a third-party shipper, so if things
correct.
happen, things happen. But we are across the province from Thunder Bay to Barrie to Toronto, Ottawa, and everything in between. We try and
With some of and I got to throw this out there, some of the most affordable shipping from any brewery in the province.
Oh, really? Oh,
Truly.
wow. Okay, that's sick.
No,
But
absolutely.
we're gonna reduce our shipping packaging as well to be a little bit more conducive to canning. So hopefully that will reduce costs as well going forward.
Amazing.
I'm not too sure, but yeah, you can pick up at the shop. We're always open. We open at noon every day. We close anywhere between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. depending on the day. We love our city. You come on by. There's lots of hotels, lots of Airbnbs, lots of really cool beer bars that have been around longer than you have in the industry.
Hamilton's dope, man. Hamilton's
wonderful, wonderful fucking place. I love it. Come to Hamilton. Come see it.
Please.
If you don't know where to go, come see us. I'll tell you where to go. It's so fucking cool. I love this fucking town, and it's not maybe for my ever town, but I fucking love it. And I'll fight for it forever, and it's beautiful. So yeah. Other than that, we're everywhere. We're in craft beer bars.
At Merit Brewing on Instagram.
Yeah, Merit Brewing. Yeah,
Merit
absolutely. Brewing. And you might have noticed a change in our marketing, and it's fucking killing it right now. It's so fucking fun and really good, and we're really just including everyone in the business and trying to get everyone back to we are a community brew pub first, and we want you to come visit. That's not a thing, but we just like our farmers market across the street. We want to support everyone, and we want everyone to be there, and we want to be a hub for change and for good and for consistency. And Hamilton for life.
Gang.
It's great.
Let's go. Hammertown. Fuck, making me proud. I'm gonna kiss the fucking streets out here. Let's
Hamilton
go.
is home, baby. It's great.
It's the best.
Lovely.
It's the best. Spinney, thank you so much again, brother, for coming on and for sharing this with us tonight and for having this beautiful open conversation, man. We appreciate you. Once again, stick around. We'll wrap this up and we'll finish up off air. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long form audio so you can hear attractive, glorious gentlemen like Uncle Spinney right here talk about craft beer every week. Spinney wants you to hit that 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you know what's good. Helps everything out. 5 stars. 5 stars. Do it now. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.